Good morning. Welcome to the New York City Council hearing for the Committee on General Welfare, joined with the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. At this time, please silence all cell phone and electronic devices. If you wish to speak in today's hearing, please fill out appearance cards with the Sergeant at Arms. And with as a friendly reminder, please do not approach the dais. Chairs, we are ready to begin.
Thank you so much. Good morning and welcome to today's oversight hearing on fair fares. I'm Crystal Hudson, General Welfare Committee Chair, and my pronouns are she, her. Thank you to Speaker Julie Menin for prioritizing this topic and for being here this morning. And thank you to Chair Abreu and the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure for joining our committee and holding this hearing. Today, we're also hearing several bills, including my bill, Intro 248, which would require the Department of Social Services to create a system to automatically enroll individuals in city-created benefits, such as fair fares. An opt-out mechanism would also be established to allow eligible individuals to decline automatic enrollment if they wish to. We're joined this morning by Council members Brooks Powers, Marte, Aviles, Wong, and Ung. I'd now like to turn it over to Speaker Menin to deliver her statement.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here today, and I really want to thank my colleagues, Chair Hudson and Chair Abreu, for holding this important hearing. Fair Fares is an indispensable program that provides eligible riders with discounted access to one of our city's greatest assets, our public transit system. It is truly a lifeline for working New Yorkers, yet far too many people who are eligible for the program have not applied for this much-needed benefit because they are simply unaware it exists or because of bureaucratic hurdles that make it incredibly difficult to access this benefit. As we urge the administration to do during our response to their preliminary budget on April 1st, we must strengthen our investment in fair fares to provide free public transit for New Yorkers at or below 150% of the federal poverty level for bus, for subway, for paratransit. And as we also work towards increasing awareness through automatic enrollment, which we strongly back. While the cost of living continues to skyrocket, we must be very intentional about our commitment to making this city affordable and accessible for all who want to live, stay, and build a future here. In addition to being a key aspect of the social safety net, affordable transportation is one of the most vital tools we have to strengthen local communities and drive inclusive economic development. When working-class New Yorkers can access mass transit through systems like fair fares, they are better equipped to participate fully in the city's economy. The reduced fare that this program provides does not just represent a discount. It also translates to consistent employment, education, childcare, and healthcare. For low-income workers in particular, access to mass transit can literally be the difference between whether someone can keep a stable job or not. Access to transportation can serve as a meaningful avenue to achieve economic resilience and mobility. When there are vast inequities across zip codes and income in New York City, programs like Fair Fares can serve to close them. I'm hopeful that today's hearing will serve as a platform for us to strategize on ways we can strengthen accessibility and availability of the Fair Fares program. To that end, we look forward to the testimony. And in closing, I just want to be clear, this has been one of the Council's top priorities, which is why we included it in our April 1st budget response, to insist on an expansion of Fair Fares to include bus, subway, and paratransit, as well as automatic enrollment. I'll now turn it back over to Chair Hudson. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Speaker Menin. Fair Fares was first launched in New York City in 2019, and the New York City Human Resources Administration, or HRA, administers the program. Fair Fares offers eligible low-income New Yorkers a 50% discount on subway and eligible bus fares, as well as accessoride trips. As of February 2026, there were 379,354 Fair Fares enrollees. Currently, New York City residents between the ages of 18 and 64 with incomes up to 150% of the federal poverty level may qualify to participate in Fair Fares. Even though enrollment in Fair Fares has steadily increased since the program's inception, that increase is nowhere close to where it should be. According to a 2020 survey conducted by Community Service Society of New York, 54% of eligible Fair Fares respondents reported that they had little to no knowledge of the program. We know that the city has made efforts to conduct outreach and promote awareness about Fair Fares, but more can always be done. I introduced Intro 248 with the goal of ensuring that all of those who are eligible for Fair Fares can access the program. When it comes to promoting equity and economic mobility for vulnerable New Yorkers, accessible transportation is key. For too many low-income residents, the cost of getting around is a daily barrier to accessing jobs, education, healthcare, and a sense of community. Programs like Fair Fares are so critical. The program helps to ensure that individuals and families are not forced to choose between paying for a subway ride and meeting their basic needs like food or housing. As elected officials, we have a responsibility to find ways to improve access to programs like Fair Fares. We hope that today's hearing will inform an assessment of how we can improve access to this program to better support the New Yorkers who need it most. We look forward to receiving testimony from the administration, advocacy groups, and other interested members of the public to learn more about the city's successes, areas for improvement, and ideas for greater access to Fair Fares. I want to conclude by thanking the committee staff for their work on this hearing, Aminta Kilawan, Panina Rosenberg, Justin Campos, and Elizabeth Childers Garcia. I'd also like to thank my staff, Andrew Wright and Elika Ruentan. I'll now pass it over to Chair Abreu.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning and welcome to today's joint hearing of the New York City Council's Committees on General Welfare and Transportation and Infrastructure. I am Councilmember Sean Abreu, Majority Leader and Chair of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. I'd like to thank Speaker Menon, Chair Hudson, and the staff of both committees for their work in preparing for this hearing, and the agencies and members of the public for joining us today. Fair Fares was launched in 2019 after important advocacy from the Council and community partners. The program provides eligible New Yorkers with a 50% discount on subway and eligible bus fares, as well as access to ride trips. The program is administered by the New York City Human Resources Administration, HRA, but the MTA plays a key operational role in ensuring that Fair Fares, Omni cards, and Omni readers apply the discount properly across the transit system. This program matters because transit affordability is a central issue in New York City and determines whether people can get to work, school, medical appointments, childcare, and other essential services. For many New Yorkers, especially those with lower incomes, public transportation is a lifeline to access the city. Over the years, the Council has worked to expand Fair Fares eligibility. Most recently, eligibility was expanded to include New Yorkers earning up to 150% of the federal poverty line. As of February 2026, there were more than 379,000 Fair Fare enrollees. That is meaningful progress, but we also know that a lot of eligible New Yorkers are still not enrolled. A September 2025 report by the Regional Plan Association found that only 39.9% of eligible New Yorkers are enrolled in the program. That gap raises important questions for today's hearing. Are eligible New Yorkers aware of the program? Is the application process simple enough? Are outreach efforts reaching the people who need this benefit most? Are language access, digital access, and documentation requirements creating unnecessary barriers? And what more can the city do to connect people automatically to benefits for which they already qualify? The legislation we are hearing today seeks to improve affordability and equity across the city's public transportation systems. Introduction number 248 would remove obstacles to enrollment by requiring the city to automatically enroll eligible individuals in Fair Fares and other city-created benefit programs, and I thank my co-chair for sponsoring such important legislation. Similarly, intro number 825 addresses the issues of replacement transit benefit cards. Losing a card, having a card stolen, or having a card damaged should not prevent someone from getting to work, school, or a medical appointment. This bill would require HRA to issue duplicate Fair Fares transit benefit cards when a card is damaged, destroyed, stolen, or lost, with one free replacement and subsequent fee-based replacements. Finally, the two resolutions we are hearing today call on the state to increase access to public transit by expanding fare discounts and allowing for unlimited transfers. These proposals recognize that the current fare structure does not always match the way New Yorkers actually travel. Transportation costs continue to rise, and those costs fall on hardest lower-income households. When transit becomes unaffordable, the consequences are real. Missed appointments, fewer jobs, longer commutes, and greater isolation from services and communities people depend on. I look forward to hearing from the administration, the MTA, advocates, and members of the public about the current state of fair fares, the barriers to higher enrollment, the transition to Omni. Please keep it down in the chambers. Replacement card challenges, accessoride participation, and what steps are needed to make the program more accessible, effective, and equitable. Before we begin, I would like to thank my staff and the committee staff for their hard work in preparing for today's hearing. Jaleesa Quigley, my deputy chief, Theodore Miller, counsel to the committee, Sierra Townsend, counsel to the committee, Kevin Katowski, senior policy analyst of the committee, John Bazile, senior policy analyst of the committee, and Adrian Japal, principal financial analyst of the committee. I would also like to thank the staff of the Committee on General Welfare for their work on today's hearing. I will now pass it over to my co-chair, Chair Crystal Hudson.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I'm going to call on a couple of our colleagues with bills before the committee. And before that, I'd like to acknowledge that we've been joined by Council members Pierina Sanchez and Justin Sanchez, not related. Council member Brooks Powers.
Thank you, Chair Hudson and Chair Abreu, for holding this important hearing. Public transit is essential to how New Yorkers live, work, and move throughout our city. But for too many families, the rising cost of transit continues to create real barriers to opportunity. That's why I introduced Resolution 52 in support of state legislation sponsored by State Senator Leroy Comrie to expand fair fares and ensure that more New Yorkers can access affordable transit. This proposal would expand the Fair Fares program to those earning up to 200% of the federal poverty level across our broader transit system, including subways, buses, paratransit, the Long Island Railroad, and Metro North, because of course, as New Yorkers, we're multimodal. We know that the cost of living in New York City far exceeds federal poverty thresholds. Families who may not qualify today are still struggling to afford daily commutes to work, school, and essential services. When we make transit more affordable, we connect people to opportunity and strengthen our entire city. I look forward to working with my colleagues in government to advance this proposal and deliver meaningful relief to New Yorkers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Brooks Powers. And now I'll turn it over to Councilmember Marte.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank Majority Leader Abreu, Chair Hudson for holding today's hearing. I also want to thank the Speaker for being in attendance today. I'm here today to discuss Intro 825, a bill that requires DSS provide more than one replacement Fair Fares card for those who may lost their card. My office has had a number of constituents come to us for help because they lost their replacement card and they were told by HRA that they can't receive additional replacement for the remainder of the year. Now that ain't right. Intro 825 is a simple way to make sure Fair Fares is accessible for all who need it and that nobody who loses their card also loses their benefits. I look forward to hearing from DSS on this issue and how we can work together to ensure everyone can receive replacement cards for the remainder of their benefit allotment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I'll turn it over to the committee counsel to administer the oath to the administration.
Now, in accordance with the rules of the council, I will administer the affirmation to the witnesses from the mayoral administration. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Chief Program Officer Rebecca Chu, Deputy Commissioner for Fair Fares, HEAP, and IDNYC, Monica Ely, and Chief Strategy Officer Christopher Gonzalez. Thank you. You may begin when ready.
Good morning. You can hear me, right? Okay. My name is Rebecca Chu, and I serve as Chief Program Officer of the Human Resources Administration, HRA, within the Department of Social Services, DSS. I would like to thank Speaker Menon, Chair Hudson, Chair Abreu, the members of the Committee on General Welfare, and the members of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure for convening today's hearing on Fair Fares. I am joined today by Monica Ely, Deputy Commissioner for Fair Fares, Home Energy Assistance Program, HEAP, and IDNYC, and by Christopher Gonzalez, DSS Chief Strategy Officer. HRA's mission is fighting poverty and income inequality by providing New Yorkers in need with essential benefits. We understand the importance of transit access and affordability. We share the view that public transportation is an integral part of our city. Reducing transportation costs for low-income households means access to family and friends, healthcare and education, and the ability to more fully participate in the life of our shared communities. Transportation is a daily necessity that impacts the geography of opportunity low-income New Yorkers face. Access to transportation is transformative, and we want New Yorkers to be able to benefit from our outstanding transit system. Fair Fares serves as a crucial component of driving those values forward. Since Fair Fares' inception, City Hall, City Council, and DSS have worked tirelessly to expand its reach. Over the last 6 years, income eligibility has grown from 100% of the federal poverty level to 150%. The eligible population has expanded from those receiving cash assistance and SNAP to open enrollment to all eligible New York City residents through an online application portal. Fair Fares links low-income households with a 50% discount on subway and eligible bus fares or 50% off Access-a-Ride paratransit trips. For more information about this program, we encourage New Yorkers to visit nyc.gov/fairfares, call 311, or visit one of the 5 Fair Fares New York City locations. New York City residents may be eligible for Fair Fares if they are between the ages of 18 and 64, or in a household that meets the income guidelines for the program, are not receiving funds to pay for the full cost of a subway or bus ride from the Department of Social Services Human Resources Administration or any other New York City agency, and if choosing the subway and bus discount, they are not currently participating in or eligible to participate in any other transportation discount program. For instance, if an individual is eligible or already participating in the MTA reduced fare program, they are not eligible for the Fair Fares subway and bus discount. Note also that Access-a-Ride customers may request the Fair Fares discount be applied to their Access-a-Ride fare. People should visit the MTA's website, mta.info, for more full information about their reduced fare program and how to apply. Briefly, the MTA highlights their reduced fare program is available to any person age 65 or over, or any person with a qualifying disability, receiving Medicare benefits for any reason other than age, serious mental illness, and receiving supplemental security income, SSI, blindness, deafness, or hearing loss, ambulatory disability, cognitive disability, or other physical disability. At present, Fair Fares has approximately 380,000 participants. Community-minded partners have served as an invaluable resource in pursuing our Fair Fares outreach strategy. In government, for instance, DSS and MTA's longstanding partnership includes participating in transit talk events in subway stations to promote Fair Fares and help people apply, DSS provision of outreach and enrollment assistance at transit talks, and the MTA partnering to promote Fair Fares online. Also in government, DSS has partnered with the Department of Youth and Community Development, DYCD, Administration for Children's Services, ACS, Department of Education, DOE, CUNY, Department of Probation, Small Business Services, SBS, New York City Health and Hospitals, the Public Engagement Unit, community boards, and elected officials. We have engaged community-based organizations in promoting Fair Fares, including VNS Health Community Center and the Street Vendor Project. Whether through training partner staff, community events, or pop-ups, outreach remains an in-community endeavor for us, consistently meeting New Yorkers where they are. In addition to engaging with partners, we have engaged in advertising campaigns to raise the public's awareness about Fair Fares. In 2025, the city invested more than $2 million in targeted advertising. In 2026, we have an ongoing advertising campaign that began in March and runs through various channels through June. That campaign includes ethnic and community newspapers, TV and radio spots in multiple languages such as English, Spanish, Chinese, Haitian Creole, Bengali, and Russian, social media, search engine keyword marketing, outdoor advertising, Link New York City kiosks, bus shelters, subways, ferries, and ferry terminals. We continually look for ways to expand our outreach and educate the public about Fair Fares, raising the program's visibility and connecting people to this important resource. I will now turn to the legislation on agenda for today's hearing. Introduction 248 proposes that the Commissioner of Social Services create a system to automatically enroll individuals in city-created benefit programs like Fair Fares NYC. As the administrator of major benefits programs, DSS understands that public benefits do not exist in isolation. An individual who may be eligible for public benefit X may also qualify for public benefit Y. To the extent possible, DSS seeks to connect clients with benefits they are eligible for. For instance, when an individual is determined eligible for cash assistance, CA, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, they are automatically evaluated for eligibility for the Home Energy Assistance Program, HEAP, and, where eligible, placed on an auto-enrollment file, AutoPay, for the annual HEAP grant. Another example, during the course of case management for households in shelter, the client will be informed about options to pursue public benefits for which they may be eligible, like CA, SNAP, or rental assistance. With respect to Fair Fares, DSS currently employs a fast-track component process whereby Access HRA, CA, and SNAP clients can click a button to agree to the terms and conditions of the program, acknowledge the program's rules, and enroll. The process is quick and easy, taking only a few minutes at most. As of March 2026, roughly 2/3 of Fair Fares clients are fast-track, when counting as a share of overall enrollment volume. 67.3% fast-track, 32.7% open enrollment. Altogether, DSS understands the importance of outreach to potentially eligible applicants and efforts to reduce the administrative burden on applicants during the course of the benefits application process. That said, informed consent and client privacy remain critically important components of the benefits application process. Benefits applications require access to personal information and clients authorizing review of their confidential information. Such information is a requirement to proceed with most, if not all, benefits applications. An eligibility assessment for a benefit may interact with an array of protected information like residential history, household composition, income, documentation status, veteran status, pregnancy status, HIV diagnosis, or status as a survivor of intimate partner violence. DSS must be conscious of the fact that such sensitive information is subject to numerous privacy regulations and laws. Furthermore, were DSS to create a single repository for such information for the purposes of auto-enrollment, that database could pose risks to prospective automatic enrollees in benefits programs. I would also want to highlight the concerns around the feasibility of this legislation as currently written. For prospective auto-enrollees, DSS does not have an existing relationship with. It is important to note that other agencies and levels of government have restrictions on how we can use their data. The outcomes of discussion with those other stewards of government data are not a foregone conclusion. For prospective auto-enrollees DSS does not already have a relationship with, alongside consent to obtain and use their data for the purposes of auto-enrollment, it is unclear how DSS would obtain independently and without permission or prior authorization sufficient information to enroll them. As highlighted before, city benefits may include assessing income information, housing information, medical information, or status as a survivor of domestic violence. To be clear, we want to connect New Yorkers to the public benefits they are eligible for. We would want to have further discussions with the sponsor around what is possible in this domain, to include consideration of respecting clients' agency and privacy, obtaining requisite assurances on the current accuracy of the information, and efforts to connect clients to the public benefits that best meet their needs. Turning to the second introduction on the agenda today, Introduction 825, sponsored by Councilmember Marte, would require HRA to issue duplicate transit benefit cards under the Fair Fares program where a participant's card was damaged, destroyed, stolen, or lost. HRA would be required to provide one replacement card free of charge and would charge $15 for subsequent replacement cards. We want the Fair Fares program to be client-centered and user-friendly. We understand that the unexpected happens and that a mode of payment could be lost, damaged, or stolen. That is precisely why we offer a free first replacement card via Access HRA. We would want to have further discussions with the sponsor about this proposal and why our policy is that after replacing one enrollment card each enrollment year, program participants can buy their own Omni card or add the discount to a credit or debit card. That operational consideration allows program participants some flexibility here. Again, Fair Fares program participants can use their Fair Fare discount via one of the following: a debit card, credit card, cell phone, or Omni card. Thus, there are alternatives if their current mode of payment is lost, damaged, or stolen. In limited cases, because our understanding is the MTA has a limited number of Omni cards, we are able to take extenuating circumstances into consideration. I would like to close by expressing our gratitude for the partnerships that make Fair Fares work, including our partners in government, like elected officials, policymakers, our sister agencies, and the MTA, and partners in our communities, like our transit advocates, our on-the-ground community-based organizations, and engaged community partners committed to outreach, raising awareness, and enrollment. We take the responsibility of guiding the Fair Fares program into the future seriously and appreciate your thoughtful contributions to this ongoing dialogue. With that, I welcome your questions.
Thank you so much, and I'm going to kick it over to Speaker Menon for her questions.
Great, thank you. I first of all just want to say I'm very disappointed that the commissioner did not come. I think that this topic is so incredibly important to working families all across the city. The council included this in our budget response on April 1st. We did request that the commissioner or the administrator, either of them come, and neither did, and so I'd be remiss if I did not express our deep disappointment in that. Moving forward, so you testified about the $2 million in targeted advertising that was spent in 2025. The fact that 40%, you've sort of got a 40% uptake rate, so only 40% of New Yorkers who are eligible for Fair Fares are utilizing it. So what do you attribute that low usage to?
Sure, thank you, Speaker Menon, for your question. So as of the end of March 2026, we had approximately 380,000 program participants. Our enrollment numbers have steadily increased over the years. I would say since the end of 2022, the program has actually grown by approximately 106,000 people. And so, as part of our outreach campaign, we've worked through with a network of our community partners and sister agencies and with the MTA. So for instance, with the MTA, we participate in transit talks. At the MTA customer service centers, there's iPads where people can enroll in Fair Fares. For existing HRA clients, we do a campaign of sending out robocalls and text messages and emails to encourage people to apply. We work with partner agencies such as ACS. We've trained over 100 DOE staff members. We also work with NYCHA, DCAS, H&H, the Public Engagement Unit, and a number of other agencies, and also local community partners such as the Street Vendor Project, and also VNS Community Health Centers. We offer trainings and social media kits to promote the utilization of the availability of Fair Fares. We have ads, print video in bus shelters, at all subway stations, at the ferry terminals. We even include, NYCHA has included information about fair fares in their rent receipts. We're very committed to promoting it as much as possible in the community and realizing there's more we can do.
I certainly appreciate what you're saying, but I think there has to be a recognition that the system is broken, that is not working when more New Yorkers who are eligible for it are not utilizing it than are utilizing it. And that is really why we wanted to, one of the many reasons we wanted to have this hearing today. We need to fix the system. The way to fix the system, in our opinion, is to make it free for a bus, for subway, for paratransit, as was indicated in our proposal, up to 150% of the poverty level. And so that is, the council is strongly pushing for that. We believe very much in the need for this and in the automatic enrollment.
Thank you, Speaker Menon. The administration is reviewing the council's proposal. We're going to continue to encourage eligible residents to enroll in fair fares and work with the city and state partners to make transit more affordable for all New Yorkers.
Let's talk about the enrollment. If you try to enroll for fair fares, you first need to download an app. What is the point of downloading the app, which again, I think really creates a barrier to usage?
Sure, so there are two ways people can enroll. So for existing HRA clients, they can log into Access HRA. There's a banner that appears that says enroll now, and through a handful of clicks, people can confirm that they want to enroll, agree to the program terms and conditions, validate their mailing address so we'll know where to mail the card if they would like the card. And sort of the mode of payment that they want to put the discount on. For those in the community, they can create an account through Access HRA by creating a login account, and then also upload documents directly onto through using the app to apply. We also have brick and mortar fair fares locations in each of the 5 boroughs to provide in-person support. And also, there's the option to apply by calling 311.
Once you get through the app and then you go onto the application, it is 13 to 15 pages for the application. What is the reason for this level of bureaucracy and the bureaucratic barriers and hurdles? Obviously, it's a hurdle if people are not utilizing it who are eligible.
Yes, thank you, Speaker Menon, for your question. So for fair fares eligibility, we look at identity, New York City residency, and income requirements. And so, the questions are designed around those, those areas. And then, so we have worked hard to streamline the process and identify efficiencies, and it's something we're continuously looking at to improve and refine.
I mean, I do have to say, I don't think 13 to 15 pages is streamlining it, and I think when only 40% of New Yorkers are utilizing it who are eligible, that's a failing grade, and that's very problematic, which is, again, why we are urging for this change. Moving gears, I do have a question on Intro 248 and your testimony, because I'm concerned that the agency seems to be relying on issues that I think in saying that you're somewhat opposed to the bill, which is how I read this testimony, that you're relying on things that are eminently solvable. I do want to point you to a program that I created about a decade ago called NYC Kids Rise, which again is a college savings account. We were able to make it universal to cover every public school kindergartner, including undocumented kindergartners. And I mention that because some of what I'm reading in the objections to the bill, I think are eminently solvable in terms of the benefits question, the data privacy question, certainly ensuring that undocumented individuals are covered. So I would really urge you to work with the team over at NYC Kids Rise who worked with the DOE and how we were able to create that.
Okay, thank you, Speaker Menon.
Okay, I'm going to pass it back over to Chair Hudson. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Speaker Menon. So despite outreach efforts, enrollment in fair fares remains low. As we've heard, a September 2025 report by the Regional Plan Association found that only 39.9% of eligible New Yorkers were enrolled in the program. Reported barriers include lack of public awareness, a burdensome application process, and the exclusion of reduced fares on commuter railroads. Fairfare's eligibility was recently expanded. How was the information about new eligibility made available?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hudson. We made the information available by promoting it through partnerships with the MTA. They promoted the information at various transit talks. We've also partnered with a variety of our sister agencies such as NYCHA, Health and Hospitals, ACS, DOE, DCAS, IDNYC, one of our other programs at HRA, to inform the public around the increase and expanded eligibility criteria. We also have advertisements through social media. We are on Link NYC kiosks. We also have print ads in subways, buses, ferry terminals. We also sent out to existing HRA clients information to raise awareness. We also target our outreach through community partners such as VNS Community Health Centers and the Street Vendor Project. We also have put door hangers outside of apartment buildings in zip codes with the highest concentration of eligible enrollees. And we've also put in ads in local bodegas and convenience stores, check cashing places, laundromats, again, in neighborhoods that have concentrations of people that could, benefit from our program.
Do you have a system to track who's applying for benefits from any of those advertisements? So for example, if somebody, is somebody who's applying saying, oh, I received something on my doorknob, and therefore that's how I learned about it and that's how I'm applying? Is there any way to track that?
I believe, thank you for your question, Chair Hudson. I believe we are able to track the number of scans on the QR codes. I'll see if my colleague, DC Ely, has additional insight, please.
We do track the number of impressions from the clicks onto the website. We believe that in FY25, we had about 14 million. And the number of clicks for the advertisements that were done from this QR code were about 27,000.
And sorry, can you repeat where the QR codes are appearing?
They're appearing on the bus and shelters. All of the advertisements have a QR code on it.
Okay.
As Fairfares has expanded. So that's, anywhere on the subway, on the bodega, storefronts, and all of the places where you see the advertisement.
Okay, so you've reportedly sent over 550,000 text messages since the summer of 2022 to New Yorkers about Fairfares as well. Do you know how many enrollments resulted from that outreach?
Thank you, Chair Hudson. So understanding that correlation is not causation, of the approximately 568,000 people PU has done outreach for Fairfares since 2022, approximately 87,000 got enrolled via the fast track process. Some people may have also enrolled via open application.
Okay, thank you. And do you agree with the estimate that only 39.9% of eligible New Yorkers are enrolled?
Yes.
That's accurate, okay. And how do you measure whether Fairfare's advertising and outreach campaigns are successful? What specific efforts have been most effective in increasing enrollment? And I'm going to do some quick math to figure
Sure.
out the percentage of that.
So, we continuously monitor, our enrollment uptick, and we are, leaning into our current advertising and marketing campaign. We believe in the value of Fairfares, and we're always looking for ways to strengthen the program and increase our outreach.
Okay, so if I'm correct in my quick math, that's 15% of the text messages that have been sent have resulted in enrollees. So Is that considered a successful outreach method, would you say, or not so much? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out like what your threshold is. 15% is not nothing.
So, I think, it's certainly a good question. I think, what we kind of look to is, the larger number of enrollees. We absolutely understand there could always be more done. And again, we'll, continue to kind of lean into not only our marketing campaign, but also working with our partners. We work through, our CBO networks to make sure that, that maybe more trusted voices than government are, sharing, and providing access to the program. So, again, we, the fact that the trajectory of the program is going up, we do consider a success, but we, can always, and are always in pursuit of doing more.
Okay. How many people visit the 5 Fair Fairs offices each month, and are you able to disaggregate that by office?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hudson. So for the Bronx office, our monthly traffic is approximately 500.
500 people
Yes,
annually?
monthly.
Monthly?
And for the other 5 boroughs, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island, the monthly traffic is approximately 450 people per month.
For each of those, not,
Yes. Per, yeah,
yes.
for each site.
Each site experiences about 450 visits or engagements per month. Okay. Are the current office locations and hours sufficient to meet demand?
We believe so. It's business hours, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5.
8:30 to 5, okay. Might you consider extending or shifting hours so that if people have jobs, they're able to actually visit these sites to enroll in the program?
So I think we can certainly consider that, but I think, what we look at is not just obviously the the in-person visits, but also,
The other types of engagement.
the other, exactly. So, it's something we could certainly consider.
Yeah, I mean, it's my critique of government, which I recognize I am a part of, but we always make everything available 9 to 5. And we're talking about people who are struggling to afford to pay for their bus fare and subway fare, who, are often working people. And so to make something available only during business hours just makes it really hard. Somebody has to take off work. That means they might be getting paid, not be getting paid for that day. They have to drop their kids off at school, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes, a little bit more flexibility, staying open a little bit later, maybe opening on a Saturday a month, something like that is something at least, I think worthy of consideration. Do you have plans to open additional Fair Fairs enrollment sites or provide more mobile enrollment assistance?
At this time, no.
Okay. And how is HRA assisting Fair Fairs participants with the transition from MetroCard to Omni?
Thank you, Chair Hudson, for your question. We are fully transitioned to Omni, all of our clients.
Great.
We began that process in February 2025 by providing Omni cards to all new and renewing enrollments or existing clients who wanted to transition to Omni. In November 2025, the Fair Fairs program mailed over 60,000 Omni cards to all enrollees who had not yet transitioned to help ensure everyone had access to their discount before the sunset of MetroCard.
Okay, great. That's good news. Thank you. I'm going to ask a handful more questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to some of my colleagues for their questions. Public transit is essential for New Yorkers' access to jobs, schools, healthcare, childcare, and other services. Lower-income New Yorkers are more dependent on public transportation than higher-income households, and transportation costs have continued to rise over time. Does HRA collect data on how Fair Fairs affects participants' access to work, school, medical care, food, benefits, or other essential services?
We do not.
And has the administration studied whether Fair Fairs improves economic mobility, employment access, or household stability?
We've administered surveys to participants in the past to, kind of gauge client satisfaction and sort of benefits of the program. So we've done that before.
Okay, and Do you have information available on some Fair Fairs participants to understand their work patterns? Like how many, like there are a lot of eligible New Yorkers who are not actually working for various reasons. And so I'm wondering if you have that data specifically about work patterns, or if you could make a summary of that information available without the personal identifying information.
Right, so employment is not any, we don't, that's not a
I don't track it.
part of the application process.
Right.
So we don't collect information about employment. You know, we ask about identity, New York City residency, and income.
Right.
So we don't collect that precise data point.
Okay. And Fair Fairs was launched in 2019 and is administered by HRA. The program provides eligible low-income New Yorkers with a 50% discount on subway and eligible bus fares, including the Staten Island Railway, Roosevelt Island Tram, Hudson Rail Link, and Access-a-Ride trips. As of February 2026, there were 379,354 Fair Fairs enrollees. Overall, how would you characterize the current state of the Fair Fairs program?
Sure. So we would say that we believe in the value of Fair Fairs, and we're always looking for ways to strengthen our program. We believe in our mission. We believe we built a good infrastructure around our program to provide the benefit in an efficient and expeditious manner. Having said that, the program can grow. We understand that there's challenges in reaching everyone who can take advantage of the program. We're going to continue to lean into our marketing campaign, and we look forward to working with council, advocates, CBOs, so we can leave no stone unturned in reaching folks in need of the program.
Thank you for that. And you mentioned in your testimony that there are approximately 380,000 participants. Do you have an exact number?
Yes, it is 379. It is 379,910
As of,
March
Okay.
31st, 2026.
thank you. And do you know how that enrollment compares to prior years? How much of an increase we've seen?
Sure. Oh, so that has increased from the 332,304 in April 2024.
Sorry, 332,304
Yes, 332,304,
as of April 20,
April 2024.
okay.
So that's an increase of roughly 0.6% each month. Another data point is that since the end of 2022, our program's grown by approximately 106,000.
106,000 people.
106,000 people.
106, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Do you have an estimate of how many people are currently eligible but not enrolled in the program?
Yes, approximately 575,000 people are eligible and not enrolled.
And how does HRA expect enrollment to change should Fair Fairs change to a 100% discount for those who are eligible, or those who are currently qualified?
Sure, so the administration is reviewing that proposal.
Okay. And do you have any stated goals for Fair Fairs enrollment in fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027?
Yes, our goal is to, continue to partner with our network of partners to reach as many eligible people as possible, and, to just really support as many people as possible, benefiting from the program and continuing to find creative ways to reach more people.
So no specific metrics you're trying to achieve or reach?
So at this point, no. I mean, one of the challenges with, projecting those type of metrics is that, there are varying circumstances as to why people might or might not want to take advantage of the program. So, at this point, again, we're, as Chief Chu said, we're going to continue to lean into our marketing program and working through partners, and hope to grow the program that way.
And do you know how many CBO partners you currently have or are working with?
So as part of our New York City benefits program, we have, I believe, 36 CBOs that we work with.
Okay, so they're not specifically for Fair Fares.
No, it's for
HRA.
benefits access altogether, but
Okay.
with that group and also with our community outreach team, we do a lot of tabling events in communities, and the CBOs partner with us on that as well.
And then you mentioned just now, there could be a variety of reasons why people are not enrolling. Do you know or can you identify what some of the most significant barriers preventing eligible New Yorkers from enrolling in Fair Fares might be?
Thank you for your question, Chair. I would say, New Yorkers have a variety of travel patterns and modes of transportation preferences. And kind of personal family planning around commutes and travel.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to acknowledge that we are joined by Council Members Hanif and Lewis on Zoom, and also by Council Members Dinowitz, Mealy, and Morano here. And I'm going to go to colleagues for a few questions, and then I'll come back. Councilmember Mealy, followed by Councilmember Wong.
Thank you. I would definitely like to know what was the outcome of what the speaker just asked you about the 15 pages that our constituents have to go through in order to get this.
Right, so thank you, Councilmember Mealy, for your question.
Is there a plan to maybe downgrade that application, that it could be more friendlier? Because remember, a lot of us don't have time, seniors involved just as well.
Sure, thank you. So as part of the online application, someone would log in and create a login account for Fair Fares. They would be asked information about their identity.
We went through that. I'm just asking, are you considering streamlining
Yeah,
that
so
application?
what I can say
the speaker
to answer your question, council member, I think it's a valid question. What I can say is, with all of our benefits programs, we are constantly reviewing to see if we can find efficiencies to make sure that accessibility is as easy as possible.
So if you're not asking people for all their information, like their social security card number, so why could it not be compressed to 3 pages?
So, I think if there are ways that we can streamline the process as much as possible.
If you're not asking those important questions and their family history, why couldn't it be cut down to just 3? So let me move on. Please think about that. And you say you're no longer using the mobile enrollment assistant trucks?
Fair Fares never had any mobile enrollments. Are you speaking of the MTA?
The
mobile
trucks.
enrollment? That's the MTA, and I'm sure that they're still using that. I'm not aware of, Fair Fares does not have a mobile enrollment truck.
The MTA will be here to testify
that's
in a little bit. Yeah, this is HRA.
Can I have one more question? How much advertisement are you doing with the local newsletters? What percentage is that?
We would have to get back to you on the percentage, but I know that we are advertising.
So what is your budget of advertising?
It's $2 million.
So how much is going to minority contractors? Y'all should have that.
Most all of it. I think that's part of the mayor's office contracts on advertisements.
So you don't have the percentage?
I don't have
of
the
it?
percentage with me right now.
You don't
I'll
have
get back to
one that you know of, like Our Time Press from Bed-Stuy? No, Bedford-Stuyvesant?
We can get back
I'll
to you
get
on
back
that.
to you on that.
Please do, Chair, because it's
Yes, we can
important.
follow up with that.
They say that, but we need to see it also,
Thank you.
locally.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
questions. Councilmember Wong?
Yes, thank you, Chair. My office deal with a lot of seniors that either don't know how to scan documents or upload to like an application like Fair Fares NYC, or they simply don't know how to apply because it's such a complicated process. I didn't count the number of pages, but it is just not easy for anybody that never scanned documents before in their life, or the only thing they know to do with a cell phone is to make phone calls. You know, they just don't know how to upload documents to a portal. Okay, so what I want to know is that, do you have like a paper option where someone can actually do it the old-fashioned way, make copies of the documents and send it in? Because I think a lot of seniors, at least in my district, would be able to do that, but they will have a very difficult time navigating your website and apply online to the Fair Share NYC. Can you talk about that? Would a paper option be possible?
Thank you, Councilmember, for their question. Fair Fares' eligibility is up to 64. The senior population is covered by the MTA. So that question should be directed to the MTA. As you said, they will be here later.
But to, just to add to that, I would just wanted to, reiterate that, yes, we understand that, there might be digital barriers to access. That's why we have the 5 in-person centers. And it's also really why we lean heavily into our community, our CBO partners, because they can actually, help in that process in making sure that they're walking people through the application process.
Yeah, and I also want to say that due to language barriers, they may have difficulty in reading or understanding the application in the English form. So you got to make sure that it is available in several languages. I think that is also another barrier that you have to overcome. I mean, 550,000 people eligible, but they're not enrolled. That's 60% of the people out there that we can service, but either don't bother because it's complicated, or they just don't know about it.
Oh, I'll say, Councilmember, if there are constituencies that you feel that need, more accessibility, we're happy to work with you and anyone else up here, to make sure that we're paying attention.
Yeah, perhaps you can send us a portal, and one of my staff will upload all the applications in one batch, rather than making them apply individually. That's something we can definitely work on.
Yeah, we can absolutely work with your office, Councilmember, on a pop-up or any way to support.
Thank you. Councilmember Morano?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Chu, for your testimony and everybody else. Your testimony says DSS already auto-enrolls people into HEAP when they're receiving SNAP or cash assistance, and that those cases are fast-tracked in roughly 2 to 3 minutes. So if the infrastructure already exists, why has Fair Fares remained a separate bureaucratic process for so long?
Thank you, Councilmember Morano, for your question. So for HEAP, in order to have, sort of reciprocity with HEAP, we had to work very closely with our state oversight agencies, OTDA, because of the, confidential nature of the information in connection with people's public benefits applications for cash assistance and SNAP, in order to be able to, have the auto pay file through HEAP.
You spent a great deal of time in your testimony talking about privacy concerns, and I appreciate the privacy concerns you raised. But millions of New Yorkers already give the city extremely sensitive information for taxes, SNAP, Medicaid, housing assistance, and public schools. So where exactly is the line? At what point does privacy become an excuse for maintaining unnecessary bureaucracy?
Right. Thank you. Oh, thank you for your question. So, we very much believe in people's right to free agency and to privacy in their personal information. So when they're applying for a public benefit, we have to protect that information, whether it is about their domestic violence status or health information or income information, all of that is highly protected information governed by, state and federal laws and regulations, that there are boundaries even within our own social services agency that we cannot just, share that information without, the client's express consent and permission, and also in consultation with our oversight agencies.
And Chair, if you permit me, one final question on the replacement
Sure thing.
card bill. I'm proud to be a sponsor of the replacement card bill, and your testimony says participants can already switch the discount to a debit card, credit card, phone, or OmniCard. But if we're being realistic, a lot of low-income New Yorkers don't always have stable banking access, smartphones, or reliable technology. Isn't that exactly why physical replacement cards still matter?
Thank you, Councilmember, for your questions. So yes, when someone is eligible for the Fair Fares program, they can elect to have us mail the physical OmniCard. They can also elect to use, their smartphone or link it to a credit card or debit card or their own OmniCard. And so, there's multiple options there, including, like you said, the physical card. And for HRA, if someone needs a replacement card for their lost OmniCard, again, even though there's innovations now where there's multiple ways to access the Fair Fares discount, through all those different, types of options, we can also mail out, a replacement OmniCard if that's the primary way that people are using participation in the program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. HRA administers Fair Fares applications through Access HRA and through 5 Fair Fares offices. Enrollment lasts for 1 year and may be renewed as long as the participant continues to meet eligibility requirements. Applicants are notified by mail after review, which may take up to 30 days. How long does it currently take on average for an eligible applicant to be approved for Fair Fares?
Thank you, Chair Hudson, for your question. It takes approximately 4 days.
4?
Yes.
How many Fair Fares applications are currently pending?
Approximately 1,500 are currently pending, and none of them are over 30 days pending.
Okay. And, okay, so there are none pending for more than 30 days currently?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And what are some of the most common reasons applications are denied, delayed, or abandoned? We heard from one person this morning at the rally, that she was $1,000 over the eligibility requirement. So I'm curious to know, is it income? Is it residency?
Thank you for the question, Council Chair. Generally, it is for income. Sometimes it's incorrect documents, and income eligibility, of course, is the major reason why people are denied.
And what's the process if somebody, if the reason is for the paperwork, right, that you just mentioned, what's the process for helping folks to correct that paperwork?
There is a notice that goes out to the individual that allows them to know what the issue was, and they have that ability to correct it within 30 days.
And how do they receive that notice?
In the mail.
In the mail, okay. How many Fair Fares applications were submitted in fiscal year 2025 and fiscal year 2026 to date?
Yes, 231,270 applications were initiated in fiscal year 25. 118,009 were approved. 51,018 were denied. 168.
Wait, I'm sorry, you're still talking about fiscal year 25?
Yes.
Okay, so 118,009 were approved.
Yes.
And how many did you say were 50?
51,018, 51018 were denied. 168 were canceled.
Canceled by HRA?
No, by the client.
Oh, by the client, okay.
And 62,071 were incomplete. That was for fiscal year '25. I can go over it again, or we can send it after.
No, that's perfect. I have the numbers. Do you have for to date on fiscal year '26?
Yes.
Those same stats?
191,224 applications have been initiated so far in fiscal year '26. 99,083 have been approved. 38,606 were denied. 99 were canceled, and 45,502 have been incomplete.
And so for the incomplete, incomplete applications, those are the ones where people are notified by mail that their applications were incomplete and have an opportunity to then resubmit paperwork, or?
No, the denials are the ones that receive a notification in the mail. Incomplete, they have emails and text messages that say, hey, your application is incomplete, you need to upload documents, and for whatever reason, they're not uploading the document.
And then maybe you have this for fiscal year 2025, but I'm just curious to know, of those incomplete applications, how many are then within a certain amount of time or ultimately approved?
We don't have that statistic. What happens is that incomplete application expires after 10 days, and so they would have to restart the application.
So once they've been notified of incompletion, then they have 10 days to correct, and after that, they'd have to reapply.
Start a new application, yes.
Okay. I think that is just another example of where we can create an efficiency and maybe, not limit ourselves or limit clients or potential enrollees to just 10 days to complete an application, and maybe even extend it to 30 days. I personally don't understand why there would need to be a time limit anyway, but if there must be, maybe 30 days so that people can have the time to resubmit rather than just 10 days. Feels a little tight. But thank you for those numbers. We appreciate the data. Are applicants able to submit all necessary documents through Access HRA and the mobile app? Or there's some that have to be submitted another way?
Yes, applicants are able to submit all necessary documents through Access HRA, the mobile app, and the vast majority of applicants do apply and renew online.
They do
They
apply and,
apply and also renew online.
okay. And what percentage of Fair Fares participants successfully renew their enrollment each year?
Over the past 2 years, approximately 50% of clients have not renewed.
So 50% have renewed and 50% have not renewed.
Yes.
And so does that mean 50% of the people lose their benefits because they don't complete the renewal on time?
Well, roughly 50%, fall out of the program. Also,
Fall out of the program, meaning they're no longer eligible?
well, they were not renewed for the program, so
Right,
they've
so-
fallen out of the program.
Right.
But about 19% of the clients who dropped off because of failing to renew do return to the program within 120 days.
Okay, so, I think this is another opportunity for efficiency, where if we know people are eligible, why are we even asking them to renew? If they're eligible, and shouldn't we just automatically renew their applications?
So I think this is, one of the things that's kind of core to why we want to take a look at what's being proposed here.
Yes.
Is, the threshold of consent, is still there for, for clients that for some reason might not necessarily want to be in the program.
Right.
I think we could certainly look at maybe ways we can increase, interaction and make sure that we're creating maybe another layer of interaction to make sure people don't fall off. But
Yeah, I think the consent I'm with you on, but I think it's one thing to ask people if they consent to being re-enrolled in the program. It's another thing to ask people to re-enroll in the program. And if half of the people who are enrolled in the program are then falling out of the program simply because they have to re-enroll or renew, I think we're failing.
So we're happy to continue taking a look at that and figuring out what efficiencies.
Okay, and it just seems like, hamster in the wheel, like, we still haven't gotten to 100% enrollment or whatever for every eligible New Yorker we know exists, and then we're losing people because we're asking them to renew, and then we're trying to get them back, and then it's just like this continuous cycle, and we're still not getting to as many people enrolled in the program as possible. And so, I would love to, be a partner to you all in thinking about how do we create efficiencies in the application process specifically to guarantee greater enrollment, but, easier access throughout the process.
Absolutely, we're happy to continue that conversation.
Do you send renewal reminders?
Yes, we send out letters, text messages, and emails to remind enrollees to renew. We send out a letter 90 days to the renewal period, and then another round 30 days prior, and also text messages 3 days prior to the renewal expiration.
And what about the emails?
Emails are sent 30 days before the expiration of renewal.
Okay. So letters 90 days and then 30 days, text message 3 days, and emails 30 days. Okay. I wanted to ask a question. In your testimony, Chief Chu, you mentioned that 2/3 of Fair Fares clients you enroll via the Fast Track program, and I'm curious to know the difference between those who are currently in, if you have this information, of the eligible New Yorkers, how many are already in the HRA system versus not, and if you have that or would know that information. I guess what I'm trying to get at is if 2/3 of the clients are using this system, perhaps the remaining third could be or would be using the system. And so I'm wondering if it's because either they're not they may not be receiving cash assistance or SNAP, or if they are, how can we get to that last third of people?
Yeah, let us dig into that and we'll get back to you.
Okay, sure. Okay, so the council needs reliable data to evaluate whether Fair Fares is reaching eligible New Yorkers, reducing transportation hardship, and operating efficiently. We'd like to get a better understanding of the current enrollees of Fair Fares, and forgive me if some of these questions are redundant, and if we've already gone over them, then we can skip them. Do you have the breakout by borough for active enrollees?
Yes. So enrollment by borough as of March 31st, 2026, the enrollment in each borough is, for the Bronx, 99,570. For Brooklyn, 125,891. For Manhattan, 65,296. For Queens, 77,451. For Staten Island, 11,702.
You may not have this, but do you have eligibility based on borough? So of the total number of eligible New Yorkers, do you know the borough breakdown?
We don't have that. We'll have to dig into seeing whether that's something that.
Okay, because what I would like to figure out is the percentage of people in each borough, and if perhaps we need to work a little bit more with certain CBOs or think about the Fair Fare offices. I would guess, because the 5 poorest council districts are all in the Bronx, one straddles the Bronx and Manhattan, Councilmember Encarnacion's district, and Bronx enrollment is lower than Brooklyn enrollment. And so my guess is that there are more people who are eligible and not enrolled in the Bronx, perhaps, than in other boroughs. And so just trying to figure out the delta there between how many eligible New Yorkers are in the Bronx versus how many are actually enrolled, and proportionately allocating our resources and investments into each of the boroughs based on that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. I mean, we would only know the folks that are already within our HRA world, but that's something we can, dig into.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even knowing how many are in the Bronx that are eligible versus that are enrolled, and for each borough would still be helpful, I think, if not the total universe. What's the percent of unduplicated Fair Fares eligible households in the current HRA benefits universe that are not enrolled?
We don't have the percent of unduplicated Fair Fares eligible households that are not enrolled. However, I think we said it a little earlier, but 67.4% of Fast Track eligible clients, those enrolled in SNAP or cash assistance, are unenrolled in the Fair Fares program.
Okay, thank you, helpful. And how often is the total enrollment data updated on HRA's website?
It's updated monthly.
Monthly?
Yes.
Okay. And
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Weekly. Thank you.
weekly, even better. Does that number include currently enrolled and active users or something else?
Current enrollees.
Current enrollees, okay. And how many HRA clients qualify for other transit subsidy programs and thus do not need Fair Fares?
We don't have that information.
Okay. It'd be good to get that if you
Yeah, let us,
can you look into it.
let's see what we can pull together.
Okay, thank you. What's the average income and age for current active Fair Fare enrollees?
We'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. And you do not collect employment status, right? So you wouldn't be able to provide a breakdown of the current active Fair Fares enrollees by employment status?
Yes, Chair. We don't collect employment information for Fair Fares.
Okay. And do you track Fair Fares usage after enrollment?
Yes, we do.
And do you have numbers on that, or how often are enrolled participants actually using the discount?
Sure. Historically, usage has been around 50%. Since the expansion to Omni, program usage has risen, averaging now 56% in fiscal year 26.
Okay. And how do you collect feedback from participants about outreach efforts and the program itself?
Sure. So, we mentioned before that we have had a few, surveys to check for, client satisfactions. We also, may receive calls through our one number system to get feedback from Fair Fares participants.
Okay, thank you. And how many Fair Fares related complaints has HRA received in fiscal year 2026 to date?
We've received 826.
And what are the most common reasons for complaint?
So during fiscal year 2026, this was the transition to Omni, so many of those calls were related to not having access to reload their MetroCard, and that vending machines were no longer available at their stations. So we took those opportunities to transition those clients over into Omni so that they had access to their discount.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to acknowledge that we've been joined by Council Members Stevens and Krishnan. And then, what assessments have you undertaken related to the impact of fair fares? Are there plans to undertake any assessments in the future?
We have conducted various, fair fare studies and surveys to get feedback, and going forward, we do plan to continue this work. The focus of future assessments is under discussion.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get into the legislation, and I think we're going to move on to the MTA in a few. And actually, before I do that, I do want to ask, you have questions? Okay. I do want to ask a question for Councilmember Brooks Powers, who had to leave. Two questions from her. Given the high cost of living in New York City, how is the administration evaluating the need to expand fair fares eligibility beyond current thresholds? And what data are you using to assess how many additional New Yorkers would benefit from an expansion to 200% of the federal poverty level and beyond?
So that is, as with the other council and advocate proposals still being reviewed right now. And so, once we have more to share, we'll certainly share with this group.
Okay, and then she also wants to know, where she says thousands of eligible New Yorkers are still not enrolled in fair fares. Can you walk us through where the biggest drop-offs are in the enrollment process, and what concrete steps your agency is taking to ensure eligible individuals, particularly those already receiving public benefits, are automatically connected to this program?
Sure. So, we will continue to kind of review those proposals, and examine and encourage, rather, eligible New Yorkers who qualify for fair fares to apply for fair fares and better understand and factoring in there's things out of our control, such as commuter preferences or modes of transportation preferences also.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Sanchez, who has a couple questions. Then I'll come back with some questions specific to the legislation, and then we'll move on to the MTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chair and Chairs, and good morning. Just echoing support for the legislation that is being considered today. I represent the Northwest Bronx, Kingsbridge, Fordham, University Heights, and I think, as Chair Hudson pointed out when she was speaking about the 4 lowest income districts being in the Bronx, I think probably no other council members understand as deeply as we do how difficult it is to reach low income New Yorkers, right? In my office, we served like 15,000 constituents in the first 4 years, and all of that was like people who walked into our office, or we met them on the street or something like that. It's really tough to reach people. So my first question is regarding the relatively low rates of folks who are enrolled, eligible folks that are enrolled, that 39.9%. In your estimation, where do you think we're losing folks in the pipeline? Is it awareness? Is it the application completion? Is it documentation requirements, recertification, approval delays? Where do you think the problem is?
So thank you for that question. So I think, I think it's probably, a variety of things, including some of the things you just listed off, but there's also, people's appetite to take advantage of this benefit also varies depending on personal situations. I think if you are seeing, a particular constituency that seems to be, I guess, less connected with our outreach efforts, we're happy to, follow up and set up, a pop-up event in your community just to make sure that we're, reaching as many folks as possible. But, as we said previously, we're assessing the program every day. And so, where we can find efficiencies and make sure that we're actually reaching, folks that aren't hearing from us, we're open to all opportunities to do that.
Chair, if I may just ask my second?
You may.
Thank you, Chair. Well, first, just welcoming you all to partner with us. We do a lot of town halls and events in our parks. We try to program a lot in the district because that draws people out, and then we can offer them services. So, Jamar, I'm looking at you to help me get the team to do applications live more often in our district. So my second question, I want to echo Councilmember Hudson's request for data on, by income band, by age, by employment. You said you don't have employment status, but by the demographics that you do have, what the enrollment rates are for eligible New Yorkers. And so my last question is whether the agency has analyzed how many low-income New Yorkers who received fare evasion summonses from the NYPD or arrest or anything like that were eligible for fare fares but not enrolled. And if this is not something that you have looked at or analysis that has been completed before, is this something you can work on with the NYPD, since we know the correlation is high?
Yeah, HRA doesn't have any information about fare evasion. There is a local law that we do comply with where we get files, I think it's monthly, from the NYPD on, I guess, summonses or something issued for fare evasion, and we will mail fare fares information out to those addresses to make sure and raise awareness about the availability of our program to people cited for fare evasion.
Got it. But you don't have numbers, or can you get back to us? Because if you're getting addresses, then you should have numbers, right?
Yes, we can get back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Hudson.
Thank you. Okay, a couple of questions about the legislation. So for intro 248, it would require DSS to create a system to automatically enroll individuals in city-created benefits programs using information such as tax and social services enrollment rolls. Intro 1028 also requires the inclusion of a conspicuously communicated opt-out mechanism as part of the notice for this program. DSS shared concerns that it would be inappropriate to enroll clients in benefits they do not wish to receive. Can you provide further information about this concern?
Sure. So, we very much value, people's right to privacy and protecting the confidentiality of information for people, particularly who are applying for public assistance benefits. And so our concerns around clients' consent to where their information is being used, and also there are, state and federal laws and regulations governing and limiting the use of information collected for specific public assistance benefits, and that prohibit and set boundaries for not sharing that, outside of the intended purpose.
Okay. And does DSS anticipate any costs associated with the bill?
The administration is reviewing the proposals at this time, including budget considerations, and would have to involve OMB.
Okay. Might you know whether or not the expenses would be fully from the expense budget, or may some be capitally eligible?
Thank you for your question. Again, we are reviewing the proposals.
Okay. Does the administration support automatic enrollment in fare fares and other city-created benefit programs?
The administration is reviewing the proposals at this time, and we, remain committed to partnering with city and state partners to make transit more affordable.
Are there any, that was a good answer, by the way, not a yes nor a no. Are there any concerns that the administration has outside of the privacy concerns you've just outlined?
It would be privacy and also client's consent and agency to decide what programs to enroll in.
Okay. And what city records could currently be used to identify individuals who are likely eligible for fare fares?
Again, there are so many state and federal rules and regulations guarding and safeguarding the privacy of clients' information. Looking at the open enrollment aspect, for instance, that's people's personal income information that I imagine would be governed by a set of also, kind of rules governing tax records and financial information.
Okay, and so you've sort of addressed already the privacy, consent, or data sharing issues that would need to be addressed before implementing automatic enrollment. Is there anything else that you feel like we should know?
I think that mainly covers it, and then obviously we'll continue with our analysis on the operation and budgetary implications.
Okay. And just to be clear, I'm trying to help you help New Yorkers, so hopefully we can all
We're on
work
the same
together.
page.
Yeah, I know it's, we all want to do the right thing. Bureaucracy often makes it incredibly difficult, but I think with a little chutzpah and imagination and perhaps some investments, we can make it happen. So, do you know how many current HRA clients, let me ask this differently. How many current HRA clients does HRA estimate could be automatically enrolled in Fair Fares? If we're thinking specifically about automatic enrollment, so those, maybe the 2/3 that are using the fast track? Or I guess you said earlier you don't necessarily know whether all of the eligible New Yorkers are in your system, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So that would be.
I guess I'm
hard
trying.
to project. Yeah.
I'm
But-
inadvertently helping you avoid answering my question.
We can look into that further and get back to you.
Fair. Okay, intro 825 for replacement transit benefit cards. What is HRA's current policy for replacing lost, stolen, damaged, or destroyed Fair Fares cards?
Yes, thank you, Chair, for your question. So currently, clients can request and receive a free replacement card within the 1 year of their enrollment period. For subsequent cards, they can purchase a new card, or if there's a special circumstance, because understanding that, things happen and people can experience a lost card, a stolen card, or a damaged card, for a variety of reasons, we can also accommodate and send out more than one replacement card within the enrollment period at no cost.
You send out one replacement card, and then after that, it's $15, is that correct?
No, we don't charge at all for any replacement cards. So for the first one.
So the first one, it's free, and
Second
then.
one, third one, all are no charge. We do not charge.
Okay, so how many times, is there a limit on how many replacement cards one can receive?
By program rules, it is typically one per replacement per enrollment period, but upon.
So one per year?
One per enrollment period.
The enrollment period is for
So
a
it's
year?
one per
You
year.
renew after a year?
Right.
Okay.
And then, but if something happens and there's a extenuating circumstance where someone needs a second card,
Yeah.
we will grant that request, and there's no charge to the client.
Okay. And then how many Fair Fares replacement cards were requested in each fiscal year, 25 and to date in 26?
And fiscal year 2025, we issued almost 95,000 replacement cards. And to date, as of fiscal year 2026, it's almost 60,000.
60?
60, yes.
95,000 is a lot of replacement cards. What are the main reasons?
Lost, stolen.
Lost, stolen. But, I mean, people are like literally just losing their cards? 95,000 people are just losing their cards like that?
Yes. Yes.
If they're lost or stolen, you shut that card off
Yes,
before you send them?
Correct. The discount is removed from the card, and we send a replacement card and add the discount to the new card.
Okay. How long does it currently take for a participant to receive a replacement card?
Replacement cards are sent via mail, so it takes up to 2 weeks. Generally, they get it sooner, but it's up to 2 weeks.
And does HRA anticipate any costs associated with this bill, Intro 825?
We're still reviewing the fiscal on this bill.
Okay, resolution number 52, state legislation expanding 50% fair discounts. Does the administration support state legislation to expand 50% fair discounts to people with incomes up to 200% of the federal poverty level?
The administration is currently reviewing the proposal.
Okay. Resolution number 143, unlimited transfers within 2 hours. Does the administration support unlimited subway and bus transfers within the 2-hour fare window? I'm almost certain we used to have free transfers.
We'll have to defer to our transportation policy folks on that, but we can get back to you on where the administration stands.
Okay, but I mean, I'm talking about like back in the day. I think we had free transfers.
We're speaking as
You got the
HRA,
little-
so
you got the
I
little
don't want to
paper
get out
ticket
over
thing,
my
and you
skis.
just, yeah, okay. 2 hours, this is for 2 hours, yeah. Does MTA have this is for MTA, okay, so could unlimited transfers be implemented through Omni without major changes? That's also MTA, okay. Alrighty, any other questions for HRA from my colleagues? Yes, my apologies, Councilmember Stevens.
Hi, good afternoon. I'll be very brief because I just want to just kind of second some of the stuff Councilmember Sanchez was saying. Obviously, I'm in the Bronx. I'm one of those districts that has a very, unfortunately, low income, and but I know Ride Alliance gave us some information to my office around like the low enrollment of fair fares, and just my question to you is, and forgive me if I missed this, what supports do you guys give folks when they need support around like applications and things like that? Because I know like specifically in my office, we do a lot of support for folks for all HRA stuff. So like people, they have to make copies and all the things. My office, I mean, we used to be next door to you guys, so you guys aren't there anymore. We were like the default HRA, but now I'm just trying to understand what supports if I need support on filling out this information and getting this. What do you guys do around that?
Sure. So, we have offices in all 5 boroughs, and we're happy to also partner with you, Councilmember Stevens, to do a pop-up and have in-person support, at the office, at any kind of events or community events to really help support and provide in-person, facilitation of the application process.
Yeah, because I'm texting my office right now because we've seen a high number of Spanish speakers coming in our office who need help and support on getting the support. So definitely would love to do a pop-up, but I think that that's something we have to, like, what does the outreach look like? Are we having it in multi-languages? And then they also are sending them a lot to some of the CBOs in our community to also support for like some of the follow-up stuff that we sometimes just don't have time to do. So, and absolutely would love to partner, but I think we also need to be creative about like how are we doing outreach, in the Bronx specifically. One in 4 folks don't even have internet or broadband. So, what does that look like? And anybody who knows going to HRA office is it's very difficult, and it's not sometimes a friendly place to be. So just to go there for application, I'm not sure that is the best supports where they would go, right? So if I need to just fill this application out, I don't know if I would go there because they're not that nice. So we should really kind of talk about that and what does that look like, and is there other places that they can go to get the support that they need? Because my office now is becoming the default, and want to figure out, we love it, we'll do it, but we also want to just have additional support. So thank you.
Yes, and our advertising campaign is multilingual, and also, targeting, local and community and ethnic newspapers and outlets and social media to really reach the hard-to-reach communities in people's languages that are, familiar.
But just like Councilmember Sanchez said, a lot of folks in our district, you have to be on the ground with them. So they might see an advertisement, but don't understand what that looks and how to go through that process. So love to do the pop-up, but also we need to think about what are the other strategies so that can be a continuous thing.
Great. We welcome working with you, Councilmember.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Councilmember Stevens, and Councilmember Sanchez has a couple more questions.
Just a quick follow-up. Thank you, Chair. A lot of folks come to our districts. We help people all the time with the Fair Fares application. It would be really helpful if there was a field that we could mark that said that we help them to do that. And my question is, do you track when it's not somebody going to the Fair Fares office, but folks getting external help with the Fair Fares application?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember. Yes, we have a field at the end of the application that says, where did you receive support? And you can put other and say, your district, whatever, and allow us to know that you are helping your constituents.
So do you have numbers on how many folks they're submitting online, but they're receiving help? Do you have that information?
We can get back to you with that information.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's just proof that, we're eager to be partners with you all and trying to get our constituents and all New Yorkers enrolled in the Fair Fares program. Okay. I believe you all are off the hook for now. Thank you so much for your testimony and for answering all of our questions. We look forward to continuing our work with you. I am going to ask John McCarthy, Dara Goldberg, and Shanifa Riera to come up. Our General Counsel will administer your oath, and I'm going to kick it over to Chair Abreu. Thank you.
Now, in accordance with the rules of the council, I will administer the affirmation to the witnesses from the MTA. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? John McCarthy, Dara Goldberg, and Shanifa Riera. Thank you. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, chairs, for the invitation to appear. My name is John McCarthy. I'm the Chief of Policy and External Relations at the MTA. I'm joined by Chief Customer Officer Shanifa Riera to my right and Policy Director Dara Goldberg to my left. We are very glad to be here to talk about fair fares. Mass transit is one of the things that makes New York City affordable. Thanks to our vast transit network, New Yorkers pay less for transportation than almost anywhere else in the country. No need to spend thousands of dollars buying, insuring, and maintaining a car. A single tap is all you need to get around New York City. But we know many people still need help paying the fare, and that's where Fair Fares comes in. At $1.50 a ride, participants are paying about 45% less per trip today than they did a decade ago before Fair Fares started. That's a rare cost in the city that has gotten cheaper over time. Since the program started, we've learned a lot about how participants use this benefit. We actually published a policy brief, Dara's team did, with our findings this week. It's available on our website, and I think we've sent it to the team, to the members. Let me run through a few of the headlines real quickly. First, enrollment has steadily grown over the life of the program and ticks up each time the city raises the eligibility threshold. But recently, enrollment growth has slowed as those increases have been more modest. Next, in our report, we found that fair fare riders are frequently subway and bus riders, so they're using both modes. Over 1/3 of customers ride 5 days or more per week, and they're twice as likely than non-fair fare riders to hit their weekly fare cap of $17.50. Third, many rely on the subway, and they're more likely to transfer between the subway and bus compared to non-fair fare riders. And finally, over 30% of fair fare riders' first tap of the day is in Brooklyn, followed closely by Queens and the Bronx. But Manhattan has the highest fair fares usage throughout the day, obviously people coming back from work. We believe more can be done. We know that many low-income New Yorkers earn too much to qualify for fair fares today. Even with a minimum wage job, you're maxed out. That's why we support raising the income threshold so that more people can get this benefit. Now, importantly, as decision makers like yourself weigh the next steps, there are trade-offs between making the cost of transit even lower for the existing eligible population and expanding eligibility to make transit affordable for even more New Yorkers. Broadening access would ensure fair fares reaches more people who need it most. We know that fair fares can change lives, and we look forward to working closely with you on this important initiative. And before we take some questions, I'll turn it over to Shanifa for an update on our marketing and outreach efforts. Shanifa.
Thanks, John. No question that there are hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers who qualify for fair fares but haven't signed up yet. We have been working to close that gap. For a few years now, we have been mobilizing the MTA's own marketing and outreach resources across all 5 boroughs to spread the word and support the city to enroll more customers. Here's just some of the samples of our efforts that we have undertaken so far. As mentioned earlier, self-serve iPad kiosks are now available in our subway system 24/7 at 30 customer service centers in subways, the mobile vans, and at 58 locations, we do monthly events and engagements. We also have a kiosk at 3 Stone Street and the Transit Adjudication Bureau office in downtown Brooklyn, which we also refer to as the TAB office. There, customers can check their eligibility and start the application process. Every month, we host 4 Fair Fares outreach events in our station's customer service centers with HRA at Coney Island, Jackson Heights, Roosevelt Avenue, 125th Street and Lexington Avenue, and 161st Street, Yankee Stadium. Monthly, we hold transit talks and bus talks where MTA staff shares information about fare fares and enroll customers on site. So far, we have completed 40 subway and bus locations. And as of yesterday, we launched a refreshed Fair Fares marketing campaign that is directed to customers to check their eligibility and start the application. You'll see these ads across our 10,000 digital screens in the subway and on buses. Customer service reps will have handouts available for distribution. We'll also give your offices a toolkit so you can help us get the information out to your constituents. We believe there is still room for improvement when it comes to outreach and advertising. And as John had said, we know that there are many working New Yorkers who would stand to benefit from the Fair Fares program. Addressing these needs is a worthy goal, and we stand ready to support the city in raising awareness and keeping New Yorkers informed. And now we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank the MTA for joining us today. Fair Fares New York City was launched in 2019 and is administered by HRA. The program provides eligible low-income New Yorkers with a 50% discount on subway and eligible bus fares, including the Staten Island Railway, Roosevelt Island Tram, Hudson Rail Link, and Access-to-Ride trips. As of February 2026, there were 379,354 Fair Fare enrollees. Overall, how would the MTA characterize the current state of the Fair Fares program?
Yeah, so look, Fair Fares compared to what we were dealing with before it came into existence, that's a success. Not that long ago, people were paying the full fare, 2019, which I think at the time was $275. So we have a 45% discount. Where it's not working is the amount of people who either don't know about it, are not signing up for whatever reason, and just not using this, very important program. The reason we look at this and say, if you raise the eligibility number, you'd have a big impact, is because that working person who is at minimum wage is now above the eligibility. Think about that. That's a person who would be 10 times a day. That's the person who's looking for this, who's going to your office, going to our offices, signing up for this. They're very motivated. So we're missing that. So but I don't want to lose sight of where we were and where we are today. It's a big jump, but there's definitely more could be done.
What are MTA's goals for Fair Fares implementation and enrollment in fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027?
So, as Chairman Lieber has mentioned several times, fare evasion, we tackled and meet about the affordability concerns that our riders face all the time. And when it comes to fair fare, you have heard through the partnerships with HRA, we have really doubled down and amplified our efforts in using the resources within our constraints to get the word out on our own about the program. Again, creating our own marketing campaign in addition to the paid ad buys that the city runs, supplementing that and really making sure that that is wide and seen across our buses and within our subway cars. Bringing Fair Fares representatives within the system weekly to do signups at the 3 locations that I mentioned, but arming our customer service agents who are outside of the booth with information about the Fair Fares program and getting them to enroll, but also bringing out members of our team to do these transit talks and bus talks in the system, as well as above at high traffic locations, bringing the Fair Fares team again into the system and having people not only learn about the program, but start the application process or enroll on site if they see our ads to bring the qualifying materials and documents.
In the MTA's view, and I think you were John, I think you were getting into this. What are the most significant barriers preventing eligible New Yorkers from enrolling in Fair Fares? You mentioned a lot of folks do not know about the program, but can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, you want to go ahead, Dara?
So, we obviously defer to our HRA colleagues who are more closely tied to administering the program and can directly interact with folks who are applying. But when we survey our riders and our customers count by annual survey, and we ask them about their income and their household size, which determines, and so we on our own try to understand people who are eligible but not enrolled. I think language barrier comes up frequently, and then not really understanding the income levels and not qualifying, even though some, and we put this in the brief that we shared with you, a two-parent household earning the minimum wage with children don't qualify under this program. So we think that the threshold being low is also another barrier. But I think as far as when folks go to enroll and what they're encountering, that's something that HRA would have a closer understanding of.
How many dedicated staff does MTA currently have for Fair Fares administration?
So, it will be the entire customer team. That is my mandate and my mission, and really leaning in on our customer service department, which I would say it's about 175 people.
And should there be an expansion of Fair Fares, do you believe that the current capacity you have would be sufficient?
You're talking about the eligibility levels?
I'm talking about if we were to expand eligibility for Fair Fares at the council level through budget negotiations, I would imagine there would be a lot more folks who would be able to qualify for Fair Fares. And I guess I'm trying to figure out if that impacts whether or not MTA would have sufficient staff to administer the Fair Fares.
So we don't administer the Fair Fares. As you know, it's a city program. We help amplify and advertise and promote and get the word out.
All right. While HRA primarily manages Fair Fares, the MTA ensures that Fair Fares, OmniCards, and Omni Readers provide access to the subway and bus system. The city provides funding to the MTA for several programs, including Fair Fares, Access-a-Ride, school fares, reduced fares for seniors and disabled riders, and other transit subsidies. How do HRA and MTA coordinate Fair Fares implementation?
So when, as mentioned earlier, when we set out to retire the MetroCard, there was a lot of conversation and planning in ensuring that especially Fair Fare customers are very part of that. So they were part of the first constituency group that was part of the pilot in transitioning them over to the OmniCard, and that level of support have remained high as expressed in previous testimonies.
Is there a formal agreement governing the roles of HRA and MTA?
As far as formal agreement, again, like our focus is about getting the word out. We don't have the ability to do the actual enrollment. We create opportunities for people to start the enrollment process at our kiosks and our customer service centers, but ultimately HRA is the one that has to verify and complete the process as well as disseminate the cards.
Fair.
But Chair, just so you know, we educate even beyond Shanifa's staff in the customer office. Our frontline employees are educated on the program, station agents, others. This is something that we talk about a lot with our team so that they can reach with the customer and explain to the customer what opportunities are available. So we'll always look to do more in that area because we have the people and they're ready to talk more about this and get into the hands of more people.
In the I believe in HRA's testimony, they mentioned that there's meetings that happen once a month with the MTA. Do you think that's enough frequency?
While we have a standing monthly meeting, there is no shortage of other conversation and interaction, especially as we plan and prepare and strategize for these different programmatic events and activities within the systems and in the community.
What data do HRA and the MTA share with each other regarding enrollment and eligibility?
So the enrollment data is maintained entirely by HRA. If we are interested in receiving it, we can, put in a one-off request to get some of the information. Typically, that's shared by zip code. How we track in some of the research that we put out this week, the program is on the usage side. So we look at the actual transactions and the taps of the Fair Fares cards to understand how riders are using it. So just to the point earlier on eligibility and use, even though there are 380,000 enrolled today, on average, we're only seeing about 60% of those people active each month. So around 250, 225 unique accounts are tapping with those Fair Fare cards at least once a month.
Thank you for that. How are customer service responsibilities divided when a participant has a problem with enrollment, eligibility, a card, an Omni account, or a fare charge?
So they can reach out to our customer service, centers, but then ultimately we work closely with HRA to help remedy and resolve the matter.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to transition out to Omni and Fair Fare Omni cards. Upon approval, Fair Fare participants may receive a Fair Fares Omni card through the mail or apply the discount directly to an existing Omni card, bank card, or mobile wallet. When money is added to a Fair Fares Omni card, half of the current fare is deducted each time the card is tapped. If a Fair Fares enrollee takes 12 paid trips within a 7-day period with the same card, they automatically receive free rides for the rest of the week. How many Fair Fare participants currently use Fair Fares Omni cards?
I would believe that all of them do. The latest I checked in the transition to tap and ride is that we're close to 98.5%, and the remaining payments are coins on bus, where we have not retired that as a payment form, and a very small percentage of employees that still have Metro, like our employees who still have Metro cards. But I believe, I would have to check, that the entire Fair Fares program has transitioned to Omni cards.
Thanks for answering that question. On average, how long does it take for Fair Fares Omni cards to be mailed to participants?
That is administered through HRA.
Got it. So it is not done through MTA. Is that
No.
fair to say? All right. How is MTA assisting Fair Fare participants with the transition from MetroCard to Omni?
Well, that exercise was done, aggressively last fall into the winter as we were sunsetting the Metro card and switched over to Tap and Ride. And there was a lot of correspondence, lots of customer-facing campaigns, and lots of information sent to the riders in partnership with HRA to get the word out.
It sounds like it's going well if you have 96%.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's similar to a senior half fare card.
Reduced fare.
Reduced fare. They've also transitioned over to
Right.
Omni.
How many reports of lost, stolen, or damaged Fair Fare Omni cards has MTA received? And how does MTA handle those reports?
I will have to get back to you on the exact number, but when we received any of those calls, we work with HRA or refer them to HRA, who will start the process in getting and issuing new cards to the riders.
Great, yeah, if you could just email us that when you can, that'd be great. Has the MTA identified any technical issues with applying Fair Fare discounts through Omni readers?
None that I'm aware of.
None.
How does MTA coordinate its customer service response with HRA when participants experience problems with Fair Fares Omni cards?
So again, whether it's through the weekly standing meeting we have, but then also our ongoing daily engagement through our customer service centers. If there are calls, there's constant dialogue and exchange in an effort to resolve the customer's issues.
Great. I'm now going to ask a few questions on Access-a-Ride and Fair Fares. Access-a-Ride is an MTA-administered paratransit service for customers with disabilities who are unable to use public buses and subways. Access-a-Ride customers may also enroll in Fair Fares and apply the 50% discount to Access-a-Ride trips. However, Fair Fare participants may only use the discount on one transportation method at a time, although they may request a switch through HRA. How many Access-a-Ride customers are currently enrolled in Fair Fares?
Chair, I'd have to get back to you with that. I don't have an exact number.
If you could get us that would be great. How does MTA verify a Fair Fares applicant's Access-a-Ride status?
So Chair, that's done the same, that's done the same way we verify for reduced fare. So we would, that's my understanding. Yeah, so it's the same as we do for a reduced fare verification.
And how long does the verification process typically take? Do you have an answer to that?
I don't know the exact time. I will get back to you on that.
All right, I'm now going to move on to MTA's reduced fare program. Fair Fares is not the only program that offers half-price transit fares to qualifying city residents. The other program is the MTA's reduced fare program, which is a separate program that offers a 50% discount to New Yorkers that are 65 years or older or that have a qualifying disability. How often do MTA and HRA hear from New Yorkers who are confused about the differences between the city's Fair Fares program and the MTA's separate reduced fare program?
As far as, confusion, with reduced fare, we have about 1.5 million customers enrolled in that program, and they can visit the 30 customer service centers, as well as Stone Street and our mobile units to get information and sign up. And that is a distinct program, that has been marketed to those who are 65 or older or with a disability. As far as Fair Fares, as we know, and the purposes that we're here today is about, this is a program that needs more robust engagement and program awareness, given that there are far more people eligible for the program, but far less people enrolled.
What happens if someone comes to a Fair Fares office to enroll in the program, but HRA determines that the person only qualifies for the MTA's reduced fare program?
So I could only speak about our programmatic engagement that happens within the system. On average, when we do these events, we have, if it's an in-station transit talk, we sign up on average about 25 or up to 50 participants. And if someone is not eligible, whether it is, because their income is not, it's over the threshold, or they don't have the information, we have a team member who follows up with them.
Likewise for the MTA, what happens if someone comes to an MTA customer service center to apply for the reduced fare program but is only eligible to participate in Fair Fares?
So as I mentioned, we arm our customer service reps with lots of handouts and information, and we have the kiosks that are literally next to the customer service centers, and we encourage them to sign up and start the application.
Public transit is essential for New Yorkers' access to jobs, schools, healthcare, childcare, and other services. Lower-income New Yorkers are more dependent on public transportation than higher-income households, and transportation costs have continued to rise over time. How does the MTA evaluate the role of Fair Fares in addressing transportation affordability?
Well, it's part of a bigger equation, which is the overall affordability of the transit system. And as I said at the start, it's very much what makes New York affordable. You can come to the city, you're not buying a car, and you have access to the entire city. What we've done over the last few years on Student Omni, expanding it from a couple of times a day during the school year to 4 times a day, 7 days a week throughout the year, City Ticket, which was a weekend-only product for 20-something years. Now it's available all week long. It's completely changed what's available to people. So yeah, this is front and center, the affordability of transit. But we're always looking for finding more affordable products, getting this product, making it available to New Yorkers. And so Fair Fares is a part of that. But what we see and what we found in our study is if you have 60% of the people who have signed up, or only 60% are active, these are the people who have gone out of their way to sign up. And they're the ones so talking about the people who haven't signed up, I think we get an idea. It means that the people who are signed up are not using the system as much as they need to, or they just don't, they're not making those trips. If you change the eligibility threshold and bring in those folks who are going to minimum wage plus jobs, I think you're going to really hit affordability and get more people into this program, and word will spread.
If I could just add to John's response, I think what we are really focused on is widening the net for this tool to reach even more New Yorkers. So I think one of the decisions the council is considering is whether you go deeper on affordability in a world of limited resources and funding, deeper for a smaller number of people, or increase affordability to a wider number of people as you have those budget negotiations with the administration. I think we are very supportive of trying to make this tool as accessible to as many people as possible.
Thank you. Does the MTA collect data on how Fair Fares affects participants' access to work, school, medical care, food benefits, or other essential services?
Yeah, so I think, and we're happy to continue exploring this in more detailed ways, but some of the preliminary research that we shared with you is looking at where people are tapping first thing in the morning and where they're tapping at the PM peak. And we can really try to break that down and understand those locations in a really granular way, but it really helps us understand what the purpose of travel, or we can make some assumptions about the purpose of travel based on these locations without directly speaking to the people who are enrolled through HRA's program.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see that data for
Yep.
sure at a granular level.
Happy to
And we
share
can
it.
work with that.
Yeah,
work
absolutely.
with you guys on that. That would be great. Does MTA target its outreach to neighborhoods with high poverty rates and high transit dependence? If so, how?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, working with the policy team with lots of data gathering, and also with engagement with our government relations team and working with electeds and community stakeholders, identifying those locations where there are large pockets of eligibility, and we go out into the system prior to our arrival, doing lots of effort to get the word out by way of the electeds, the community boards, or trusted CBOs and community partners, to let them know that we are in the neighborhood or in the community to sign up and enroll folks.
Thank you for that. I'm now going to turn it over to my co-chair, Councilmember Crystal Hudson.
Thank you so much, Chair. Upon approval, Fair Fares participants may receive a Fair Fares OmniCard through the mail or apply the discount directly to an existing OmniCard, bank card, or mobile wallet. When money is added to a Fair Fares OmniCard, half of the current fare is deducted each time the card is tapped. If a Fair Fares enrollee takes 12 paid trips within a 7-day period with the same card, they automatically receive free rides for the rest of the week. How many Fair Fares participants currently use Fair Fares OmniCards?
Thank you for the question. I think we addressed this while you were in the room, but we are now at close to a 98.5% transition to tap and ride, and that covers all of our physical fare media programs. Essentially, what's left are around 2% for people who are paying with coins on the bus, and a very small number of our own employees who still have Metro cards. So all of these programs have already transitioned to physical Omni fare media.
And to Chairman Abreu's, your previous question, we have 5,000 Access-a-Ride customers that are currently enrolled in Fair Fares.
Thank you. Forgive me just one second. Thank you. We're just comparing notes here. Okay, the council needs reliable data to evaluate whether Fair Fares is reaching eligible New Yorkers, reducing transportation hardship, and operating efficiently. Do you have an understanding of MTA ridership at different income levels?
So I would just like generally characterize the ways we understand our riders are by speaking with them in our surveys or where they can tell us that information about themselves and demographic characteristics. And then the other way we track folks or try to understand their travel patterns is through the way they pay and where they're paying and what time of day. With transactions, we don't know anything about people's demographics or their income levels other than those who are already in income-restricted programs like Fair Fares. But we do have information about the demographics and travel proclivities of our riders through survey data.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. What do you expect, or what does the MTA expect the difference in ridership to be between someone making 150 to 200% of the federal poverty level and someone below 150%? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I don't know that we have an exact projection. I just think that we would expect you would reach more people who would ride more frequently. In the brief that we shared with you all, you can see that the travel patterns of Fair Fares enrollees today already mimics the AM, PM peak of the broader system with slightly more off-peak travel. I think you're just reaching more working New Yorkers because the income threshold today is so low.
Yeah, and Chair, I would just add that just the reality of the way our system works, when you see weekday ridership versus Saturday and Sunday, you have a significant drop-off, students and people who are coming to and going from work. And so the higher the threshold, I think you're capturing people who are going to jobs more so than you do today, where it would either be someone who's working part-time or maybe they're not working, or they're doing some, in the neighborhood local. So yeah, I think you would see the sort of growth that you would see whenever you pull in people who are coming to and going from work.
Thank you for that. Do you know, on average, what % of New Yorkers living below the federal poverty line use public transit?
Yeah, I think the census statistics are mostly about how you commute to and from work. We have some of that in our survey data that includes leisure and other forms of travel, so we can get back to you on the specific share relative to the poverty line.
That would be helpful. Yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm. The MTA's data on Fair Fares rides by station shows that subway ridership is almost twice that of bus ridership. Do you know why this might be the case, and is this consistent with public transit ridership for non-Fair Fares users?
Yes, that is generally consistent. It is a much higher share. I would say a slightly higher share of Fair Fares users than the rest of the system use the bus and make bus to subway transfers, but it's not a big differential, which is in, I think, one of the charts or graphs that we shared with you.
Okay,
all.
Thank you. How does the MTA expect the weekly ridership of those on the Fair Fares program to change if Fair Fares changes to a 100% discount for those who qualify?
I don't think we know that. I think, just going back to how I responded to a couple of questions ago, we don't know how much usage is, what usage possibilities there are with somebody who's earning below 100% federal poverty. We already know that at the rate it is today, 150%, there's 40% who aren't active, who have enrolled, so it suggests that is a factor, and that getting people who are going to and from work will make that number pop more than, as Dara sort of went through, the trade-off that elected officials and policymakers face.
Thank you. And then just a couple of questions about legislation. So for resolution number 143, unlimited transfers within 2 hours, does the MTA have an estimate of how many riders would benefit from this policy?
No, but I would say there's a couple of different elements to that. So one, on the subway system, it would be very, you can already make unlimited transfers as long as you're within the system. So if the question is, do you do unlimited travel within 2 hours, and it's part of transfers, we would need a way for folks to be able to tap out in order to register that as a transfer if you were going to make some kind of out-of-system transfer. And we don't have that validator technology installed today, so that would be a pretty significant change to the way the subway system operates. On the bus, we are piloting this on the Queens Bus Network redesign, which is a time-limited window of a universal transfer. And for that, I think the bus is a little bit, because of the technology and directionality that we're able to understand when people tap onto those modes, it's a little bit more feasible, but we're still trying to understand how people are using that and what the broader implication would be for the full system.
Okay. And then could unlimited transfers be implemented through Omni without major changes, you think?
It would require a lot of programming, I think, to understand this.
Yeah, but it's in addition to complicated programming, there's complicated budgeting attached to that. Just because with unlimited, it's not necessarily an unlimited transfer; it's unlimited trips.
Right.
That's a different thing altogether, where you have real budgetary consequences that would have to be addressed if that policy decision were to be advanced. That's why we've always done it with the transfer that you can get within system, obviously, that we're all familiar with, and then the bus to subway transfer that didn't always exist.
Yeah.
It's another, it's an amazing thing looking back in time that there was a time when people paid, 2 fares.
Yep.
Remember? But I just would caution that there are a number of different issues related to that we have to deal with.
And I guess one example that I can think of that's specific to my district is, and one of my biggest gripes with the Barclay Center, that when that whole development came about, Atlantic Yards, not specifically the Barclay Center, I shouldn't say that, but with Atlantic Yards, was they invested all of this money into redesigning the subway station directly underneath the Barclay Center. But we have, within just a few blocks, a G train station, a C train station, and there was no tunnel created to connect people within that system. And that walk, I would estimate to be similar or shorter than the walk you have to do at Times Square or something, to move through. And so I guess I would think about trips as transfers, not necessarily saying you're taking the train to go to work, then you're hanging, you're spending the day at work, and then you're unlimited, ride to go somewhere else or for lunch or whatever, but really more so if there's not a direct connection available between different train routes, thinking about transfers available.
Yeah, and so...
And maybe there's a way to geo-target or something that within a certain area you can...
Yeah, so as opposed to a universal untimed transfer period.
Yeah, and this is just my own personal question. I don't want to, this is not my bill, it's not my legislation. I don't want to speak on behalf of the sponsor, but I'm just,
Yeah, well, so the good news is with Tap and Ride, it's, there's so much more possible, and that is, Chair, something that we are aware of, and we have people who are looking at exactly that sort of thing, so we should talk more about it.
I look forward to it, and I'll turn it back over to Chair Abreu, and also want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Nurse. Thank you.
These are my last set of questions. What happens when someone who is part of the Fair Fares program hits 65 and transitions out of the Fair Fares program? How does HRA or MTA coordinate, if at all, to ensure a seamless and timeless transition from the Fair Fares program to the reduced fare program?
Seamless. So I would not say it's seamless. I mean, again, there can and should be better coordination as Fair Fare participants are aging out of the program and introducing and promoting and encouraging folks to transition over to Fair Fares. And that is something that we can all collectively do a better job in coordinating.
Yeah, and it's about getting information. I mean, it's a date and time, so people know when they're turning. So getting that information into the hands of people who are in Fair Fares, who are coming up on that age. We do that with seniors. We are, asking them always to start preparing and planning, and so many of them are so. I have my own parents. They're so aware of it. It's like I'm going to have that in day one. So that window of somebody turning 64 and then 65 going on to reduced fare, we gotta all be better there. That should.
I really appreciate you guys just being straight up honest about that, because I remember when I was at the rally this morning. One of the advocates, I think she's here in the audience, with the red hair back there.
Deborah Greif, yeah.
What's your name? Deborah, thank you. You know, she mentioned to me that it doesn't make sense that when you're 64 years old as part of Fair Fares and you turn 65, you have to enter an entirely new, different program. And I know it's a state-run program. But for these folks who benefit from this, they should just be able to have a seamless transition. I would even argue it should just be automatic. If you're part of Fair Fares and you turn 65, you should be automatically enrolled into a reduced fare program. But if we can't do that, we need to find a way to coordinate better from HRA to the MTA. And so I'm glad that there's a sense of urgency here already. And I think it would improve the quality of life and also increase access to our mass transit system for those who really need it. So thank you so much for testifying.
So there is complications with that, and there's litigation involved. So we will get back to you on more on that transition and making sure it's smooth.
Let's keep talking. Thank you, Chair.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We are going to move to public testimony, but I do want to thank you and just note for the record that you are not legally mandated to be here, and so we do really appreciate your time and willingness to answer the questions and to partner with us. So
thanks for having us.
Thank you. Okay, we are now opening the hearing for public testimony, and I want to remind members of the public that this is a government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant-at-Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant-at-Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on the oversight topic, Fair Fares, or on Introduction 248, Introduction 825, Resolution 52, or Resolution 143. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant-at-Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. And I want to ask if Little Flores is here. No, okay. So the first panel will be Eduardo Rodriguez, Rudolph Pongnan, apologies, Marie Pierre, Taniqua Ortiz Long, Thank you, and we'll just start at my left, your right, at the end of the table here. You can begin when you're ready. You can begin when you're ready. You want to just hit the microphone? Just hit the button at the bottom. Perfect, thank you.
Have it. Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for holding this hearing and the opportunity to be heard. My name is Eduardo Rodriguez. On behalf of Freedom Agenda and the campaign to close Rikers Island, I'm here to support Riders Alliance because I acknowledge the connection between being economically disadvantaged and attempting to make a reintegration successfully. The burden of hardship associated with accessing public transportation has not allowed me to maintain certain obligations as a result of my release. I'm gonna read a script that I worked on all week because I'm limited with time. As a justice-impacted individual, I recall my inability to afford public transportation, leaving me feeling entrapped, prejudiced, targeted, and conditioned for criminalization. I recently collaborated with Riders Alliance in the push to improve access to public transportation for all New Yorkers through a host of efforts, because it never made sense to me that a warrant would be issued for my arrest because I couldn't afford to travel to a legal appointment, whether it be court, probation, parole, community service, jury duty, or being presented with the dilemma of having to choose between the most important meal of the day, for me it's coffee and a bagel, or hopping the turnstile at the risk of being ticketed because I was being targeted for arrest or paying my fare. I remember having to hop the turnstile to get to an interview for employment that only required that I turn in documents. I never made it to the interview. Instead, I wound up in cuffs. My eager plea to be released so I could make it to the interview led the officer to believe that I was evading the law. He held me in hopes that a warrant would pop up in the system. Some things never change. About 2 weeks ago, as I was leaving a Riders Alliance meeting that prepared me for this hearing, I entered the Fulton Street train station, tapped my Omni car courtesy of Riders Alliance. It wasn't until I turned the corner onto the platform that I noticed an officer peering around the corner, waiting for someone to beat the fare. Most New Yorkers struggle with the burden of hardship associated with the cost of public transportation. Denying New Yorkers access to public transportation limits our citizens' rights to liberty, interests, and pursuit of happiness. No one should face arrest, miss opportunities, or be pushed deeper into hardship simply because they cannot afford to swipe into a subway system that this city depends on. I urge City Council to act now and make Fast Fare truly fair for the millions of New Yorkers who keep this city moving every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tanea Ortiz Long. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I've lived in Brooklyn, Queens, and now the Bronx. I'm here today to advocate for affordable transit and the expansion of fare fares. In my lifetime, I've watched the fare go from $2.25 to $3. That 75-cent increase may sound small, but it adds up, and it's pricing people out. Right now, I qualify for fare fares, but the moment I get a full-time minimum wage job at $17 an hour, I will lose that support. After taxes, that is about $28,000 a year, just over the current eligibility cutoff for around $23,000 a year. Somehow, that's considered too much to qualify, even though it's nowhere near enough to survive in this city. Let's be real about math. Rent for a studio can be $1,800 a month. Phone bill is around $120. Wi-Fi, $75. Groceries can range from $200 to $600. Utilities added can be another $150 to $300. And the costs keep rising. After paying for basic needs, there's nothing left. In fact, I'd be in the negative before even paying for transit. At 21, I hopped the turnstile after work because I had no money left and was waiting to get paid. Instead of getting home safely, I was given a $100 ticket and threatened with arrest. I was forced to choose between being stranded or being criminalized. That is not a real choice. Fair fare should not disappear the moment someone starts earning slightly more. I'm asking you to expand it so working people are not punished for trying to get ahead. Thank you for listening to a New Yorker who just wants to afford to stay in the city she calls home.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
I want to thank the honorable members of the City Council for giving me the opportunity to provide my testimony. I was particularly inspired to come here to speak on behalf of the swath of New Yorkers who are experiencing abject poverty. My name's Rodolphe Pagnon, and it wasn't easy for me to show up here. I'm feeling a bit emasculated, ashamed, and depressed by my current circumstance. And I've been an activist since 2016, and I've dedicated myself to speaking truth to power. So while I had consternations about showing up here and talking about the ugly reality of living in abject poverty in New York City, someone has to do it, and one of the commandments that I live by is be the change that you seek, and so I'm here. I haven't worked since the shutdown of April of 2020. I used to have a career. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration with a major in accounting. I was eventually I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome in my mid-30s, and I have other comorbidities. I've also been diagnosed with major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, adult selective mutism, sleep apnea, and ADHD. And eventually all of this pushed me out of the workforce. I have, however, been making incremental improvements over the years, and I have a little more confidence that I will be able to eventually have a relatively normal standard of living. What I want to say is that anyone like myself who's on cash assistance, I believe they should receive a free Fair Fare Omni card. And I think it would be bad policy not to do it. I think it would be inhumane, and I think it would punish the poor simply for being poor. What I get from cash assistance, which is my sole source of income, I get $59.05 twice a week. So that comes up to $118.10. I'm sorry, twice a month. Sorry. I get $59.05 twice a month, and that comes up to $118.10. That's my only source of income. So my phone bill and internet, that comes up, while it's discounted, it comes up to roughly $15 a month. Doing the laundry on a weekly basis for a month, about $50. And incidentals, toiletries, cleaning supplies, pest control, roaches and rats, another $50. So I'm already at $150, and my monthly income is $118.10. So this is how this whole dynamic works out for me in practice. I don't actually do the laundry every week, even if I could. My incidentals, I address that only when it's absolutely necessary. So when I'm in a situation where I'm running out of a bar of soap, then I gotta go buy another bar of soap, and just gotta be that frugal. As far as my Fair Fares, reduced Fair Fare card, so whenever I put money on it, I put $10 on the card, and I call it my what if money. The reason why I call it my what if money, it's
Excuse me, you're gonna have to, if you could just wrap up shortly. Thank you.
yes, yes. So the reason I call it my what if money is in case I'm in the subway and I see law enforcement, and I don't have time to beg for a swipe, so then I use my Fair Fare card. And I can't imagine if I had to use public transportation every day. And I hope my testimony encourages you to make this program more robust, and thank you for the time.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Marie Nadine Pierre. I just want to preface what I'm about to read, just briefly inspired by my co-panelist. I was born in Brooklyn to immigrants from Haiti. Hard work is part of our DNA, and I've actually worked since I was 14. I never thought I'd be in a low wealth situation because I did earn a college degree at 20, and I went to earn my master's degree at UC Berkeley and went on to an Ivy League institution for a doctorate. I've attempted 3 doctorates so far, but I'm still in the low wealth category, most likely because of my lifestyle in this city that keeps changing and welcoming new people that look more like the neoliberal economy prefers to hire in either service sector or the private sector. So it's been impossible to get a job. I lost my 4 children. We stayed in a family shelter in Queens, and they wouldn't keep us after 3 months. So my poverty issues have been enormous, even though I did everything I was supposed to do since I was 16 years old. So right now, I end up having to beg online and on the streets to people for money to afford the basics. I am on HRA benefits, but they are not enough because I suffer from a bunch of different problems, health problems, because my immune system has deteriorated over the years, and I require a lot of vitamins that the insurance does not cover, so I have to buy those out of pocket. This is what I wrote. My name is Marie Nadine Pierre, and I live in New York City. I support expanding fair fares because affordable transit directly affects my ability to meet basic needs. I rely on the subway and bus to get to medical appointments in Manhattan and Queens, as well as Brooklyn. And when I cannot afford the fare, I have had to ask other riders for a swipe, including this morning to get here. No one should have to depend on strangers to reach necessary health care. Fair fares also helps people stay connected to work and opportunity. The cost of transportation can keep me from job searching, attending interviews, and participating fully in my community. I currently have a reduced fare, but I feel that a free fare would let me travel consistently and with dignity while I work to stabilize my income. I respectfully urge the committee to expand fair fares by increasing the income limit to at least 300% of the federal poverty level, so more low-income and near-poor New Yorkers like me can afford to ride. Fair assistance is an investment in public health, access to employment, and equity. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much, and I want to thank you all again for your testimony. I know it's not always easy to come up in front of a panel and put on the public record your circumstances and situations, but one of the many reasons why we always ask for directly impacted folks to go first is because we think it's incredibly important for people to hear your testimony. And so thank you again. We should not be criminalizing poverty. And so I know that the City Council will do everything we can to work directly with the administration to address some of the issues that you all have brought up here today. So thank you again for your time.
And agree with our co-chair and everything she said.
Okay, our next 2 panelists are from the Independent Budget Office, Claire Salant and Emily Pramick, apologies. And our General Counsel will swear you both in.
Now, in accordance with the rules of the council, I will administer the affirmation to the witnesses from the Independent Budget Office. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Claire Salant and Emily Pramick. Okay, you may begin when ready. Thank you.
There we go. Good afternoon, Chair Hudson, Chair Majority Leader Abreu, and other members of the committee. My name is Claire Salant, and I am a lead and budget and policy analyst at the Independent Budget Office. I am joined by Emily Pramick, another lead budget and policy analyst at IBO. IBO is a government agency whose mission is to enhance understanding of the New York City budget, public policy, and economy through independent analysis. We appreciate the opportunity to testify at today's hearing on the city's Fair Affairs program, including the council's proposed changes in Intro 248 and Reso 52. You've already heard from the administration about how the program works, so we'd just like to highlight a few things building off their testimony. First, in thinking about eligibility, the program has a few limitations. Currently, the program covers New Yorkers 18 to 64 who make up to 150% of the federal poverty level. Adults 65 and older and those with disabilities are covered by the MTA's half-price program, meaning many older adults and disabled New Yorkers are not eligible for Fair Fares. Access-a-Ride users can use this program since the MTA discount does not cover paratransit, but they lose Fair Fares eligibility when they turn 65, like all older New Yorkers. Second, because Fair Fares is a wholly city-designed and funded program, the city can change these eligibility requirements and has already done this several times in the past. Since the program began in 2019, the city has raised the income eligibility threshold from about 100% to 150% of the federal poverty level, or from about $12,500 to about $23,500 for a single adult. These changes have increased the number of income eligible residents from 615,000 in 2023 before the first income eligibility increase to about 940,000 with the most recent change in November. However, as you've heard today, just about 41% of eligible New Yorkers are enrolled in the program as of December of last year. So to understand why take-up of this program remains so low, we need to consider the structure and setup of the program, as well as the commuting needs of low-income residents. So individuals enroll in the program on one of two tracks, depending on how they're connected to city systems. So for those who receive temporary assistance through HRA and already have Access HRA accounts, the process is relatively simple and just requires replying to system notifications. So if you miss that first notification, the system will automatically email you a reminder every quarter, and you just have to click some buttons, and then you'll be mailed an OmniCard in 2 to 3 weeks. But if you're not already connected to Access HRA, the process is more complicated. So first you have to know about the program, and then you have to make an Access HRA account to go through what's called open enrollment. So you make an account, you have to verify your identity, your residence, and your income, and you have to submit documentation like tax returns or other paperwork the city does allow you to use before HRA can then determine your eligibility. Since this process is more involved, households do not always finish their application, as you heard earlier, or documentation submission. We also want to note that households, even when they do eventually qualify, they do have to pay for full transit during that whole application process. It's possible that HRA and the Department of Finance could work to facilitate some data sharing to both avoid some households having to submit all of that documentation and expedite some eligibility determinations. But most of what we focused on today, and in general the conversation around Fair Fares, is about enrollment and these challenges for enrollment, and there's less discussion on transit use. However, IBO finds that when individuals do successfully sign up for Fair Fares, they don't use it very much. So IBO estimated the total number of weekly trips per participant based on expenditures and program enrollment. On average, Fair Fares users took just 2.8 trips per week in fiscal year 2025, and an estimated 3.3 trips in fiscal year 2026. So
Thank you. If you could just try to wrap, we have the full written testimony.
Okay, yep.
So we'll make note
I
of
will.
that, but if you want to.
I can take it from
Yep.
here. So why are so few people using the Fair Fares program? We know many factors could be contributing to low participation. First, qualifying individuals may not know about the program. However, recent Community Service Society data, survey data is showing that awareness is improving. And we can say from our own research in the budget that HRA spends about $2 million per year on advertising, which is the largest advertising budget for a single program in the agency. So we think there are other factors at play here. Another factor could be the low enrollment and transit use could reflect underlying rates of employment and transit commuting in the eligible population. According to US Census data, those currently eligible for fare fares use transit to commute to work and actually work much less than New Yorkers who are at even slightly higher income levels. According to 2024 data, just 1 in 5 of those at fare fares income levels use transit to commute to work. That jumps to 1 in 3 at the 150 to 200% of the federal poverty level. So just that next step up that's proposed in Reso 52. So we absolutely expect higher enrollment and transit use as this program expands to New Yorkers at higher incomes. This is not to say that those currently eligible don't need or want to use transit more, but another factor could be the program's 50% discount is just not enough to support this population's transit use. There is some research to support this. A recent randomized controlled trial of transit subsidies for SNAP recipients in Allegheny County, which includes Pittsburgh, found that half-price discounts had no effect on how much individuals use transit, but a free program, in fact, increased their transit use by 43%. So we think there is evidence for some affordability issues at play. We've shared a lot of information, so just want to sum it up for you. Even with multiple increases to the budget, participation in fare fares remains low. So this to us suggests that there are problems with the program structure and not just the level of funding. The city, of course, has multiple options to increase participation. As the council debates these changes, we want to emphasize it's important to consider who qualifies, their transit needs, and their experience in the current program. Higher income populations have higher transit use and especially used commuting to work. So we expect program costs to increase if they join the program and use the transit more. If automatic enrollment leads many more people to participate in the program, we also expect program costs to increase with that. And finally, if the council makes transit free for those who currently qualify but makes no other changes, that change will leave out adults who are older and those with disabilities who currently qualify for the MTA's half-price program. So they would be left paying half price while others received a free benefit. So we just want to make that clear. We are tracking all of these proposals. We're keeping track of the conversation. We are working on an analysis of fare fares expansion and an increased subsidy, including cost estimates. We do not have those available today, but we will share those with the council and the public very soon. But in the meantime, we would be very happy to take your questions.
Thank you so much. I don't have any questions at this time, but I do look forward to hopefully getting the budget estimate from your
We will
office.
absolutely get that to you.
And thank you so much for your testimony.
Okay, thank you.
The next panel consists of Adam Schmidt, Brian Fritsch, Deborah Wright, Rachel Swanner, Beth Williams, and Aaliyah Sumra. Adam Schmidt, Brian Fritsch, Deborah Wright. No, W-R-I-G-H-T. No problem. We'll start to your right at the end of the table here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Adam Schmidt, Senior Research Associate for Transportation at the Citizens Budget Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to testify about the Fair Fares NYC program. Today, CBC released More Aboard, which recommends raising the Fair Fares income eligibility threshold from 150% to 250% of the federal poverty level. This would make life more affordable and increase economic opportunities for low-income New Yorkers. We estimate this expansion would cost $146 million, bringing the program's total annual cost to $232 million. Yes, the Citizens Budget Commission is recommending the city spend more money on this program. At about 1/6 the cost of fare-free buses, this expansion would be a far more impactful and cost-effective use of city resources during a time of budget stress. With this expansion, an additional 722,000 New Yorkers would be eligible, bringing the total population to nearly 2 million of eligible individuals. The program would reach 1 in every 4 working New Yorkers and cover households earning 20% more than full-time minimum wage. It would also increase the program's effectiveness. As you've heard, Fair Fares suffers from low enrollment and utilization, with only a third of those eligible currently enrolled, and each enrollee only averaging 3 rides per week. Transportation affordability poses the greatest challenges to working commuters with travel needs but limited financial resources. Currently, full-time minimum wage workers are not eligible for the program, and this expansion would rectify that. Fair Fares has advantages over other transit affordability programs like free buses. Namely, it gives riders the choice to use either the subway or the bus, whichever works best for them. Raising the Fair Fares eligibility threshold preserves this choice and is a smart way to reduce the cost of living without subsidizing those who can afford transit. While it expands eligibility, the city should also improve education and outreach, as you've heard, and simplify enrollment to increase utilization. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Fritsch, Associate Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. I have a longer written testimony that I'm happy to share with a lot of our details on our proposals, but I just wanted to take a moment to highlight a few really interesting things that I think we heard in the hearing today. I want to start by saying thank you to the speaker and to you, Chair Hudson and Chair Abreu, for holding this hearing. This is the most attention that the Fair Fares program has gotten since it was implemented in 2019, and we're deeply appreciative of shining a light on some of the issues with the program and how we can make it the transformative one that we'd like to all see. I think 2 points that came up that were really interesting were the number of people that HRA is interacting with regularly, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers who are in their system in one way, shape, or form because they're getting some type of benefit but are not receiving Fair Fares. And secondly, and this was news to me today, the 50% drop-off rate on program renewals is really abysmal. Both of these highlight how difficult this process must be for families, and structurally how it's failing New Yorkers. So thank you for shining a light on this. I think your plan of automatic enrollment really gets to the heart of how we can improve the Fair Fares program for these families, get them access to the benefits that they are already entitled to, and ensure that they can travel around the city in a way that opens up doors of opportunity for them. So I think that's really wonderful that you were able to really focus on that today. I wonder if HR8 might consider breaking down some of these barriers, particularly having people opt out of not getting the program as opposed to forcing them to opt in and jump through a bunch of hoops. I think there's a lot of ways we can be creative about ensuring that New Yorkers have access to the benefits that they deserve.
Thank you so much. Next. Can you just, yeah, perfect.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Chair Hudson, for giving us the opportunity to testify today. I'm Deborah Wright. I'm the National Political Director for the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, RWDSU, and we're here today to speak in favor of the Council's proposals to expand the Fair Fares. RWDSU represents over 100,000 workers nationally. We work in industries such as retail, retail supply, grocery stores, food processing, food distribution, agriculture, cannabis, building services, nursing homes, car washes, and more. Simply put, our members help our economy moving every single day. Our retail members work in challenging industry that is demanding physically and mentally. They open stores early in the morning and close them late at night. They spend hours on their feet assisting customers, stocking shelves, and maintaining stores with little rest. During weekends, major sales, and holidays, the pace becomes frenetic and exhausting. Our members do all of this while constantly interacting with the public, managing frustration, de-escalating conflict, and maintaining professionalism no matter what they face. Increasingly, they also face real threats to their physical safety on the job. Yet, despite strong union contracts, many of our retail members are struggling to make ends meet. The cost of transportation is not a small inconvenience, it's a daily burden that forces impossible choices. Our members rely exclusively on public transit to get to and from work in a timely and safe manner. They are not asking for luxury, they are asking for fairness. At the program's current income threshold, many of our members are now excluded. In a city where rent, groceries, healthcare, childcare, and transit costs are among the highest in the country, the current threshold is disconnected from how people live. Expanding fair fares would include more low-wage workers, which in turn would mean more stable employment and a stronger workforce for the city. It would mean dignity for our members and countless workers across the city by knowing that getting to work will not push them further into financial stress. We urge the council to act diligently, please.
Thank you so much. And for everyone who submitted written testimony, we have the full testimony for the record.
Thank you, Chair Hudson, Chair Abreu, and to all the committee members for this opportunity. My name is Rachel Swanner, and I'm the Vice President of Policy Research and Advocacy at the Community Service Society of New York, an organization dedicated to helping everyday New Yorkers achieve economic security and well-being. And Fair Fares is one of the city's most important tools for making New York more affordable. For hundreds of thousands of low-income New Yorkers, it reduces the cost of getting to work, school, medical appointments, and other essential activities, including staying connected to family and friends. But our latest research shows that while the program is making a meaningful difference, it is still not reaching everyone who needs it. And for many who are enrolled, the discount is not enough. In January and February of this year, we surveyed 1,653 New Yorkers receiving SNAP, cash assistance, or CityFEPS, populations that closely overlap with those eligible for Fair Fares. We asked whether they were enrolled in Fair Fares and how the program affects their daily lives. First, on access, more than 1 in 3 respondents did not have Fair Fares. These are New Yorkers who are already connected to public benefits and interacting with city systems. If the program is not reaching a third of people in this group, it is unlikely to reach the many eligible residents who are not connected to services, at least not without changes to how the program is administered. Second, on impact, for those who do have Fair Fares, the program is clearly helping. Nearly all respondents said the discount makes it easier to get around, and more than 4 in 5 said it helps them cover other essentials like housing, food, and utilities. These are meaningful improvements to people's ability to manage daily life. But the data also make clear that the current 50% discount is not sufficient. 64% of Fair Fares users told us that even with the discount, it is still hard to afford public transportation when they need it. In other words, even at half price, transit remains out of reach for many of the city's low-income residents. These findings point to 2 clear priorities. First, the city should automatically enroll eligible residents in Fair Fares. Eligibility closely overlaps with programs like SNAP and cash assistance, which are administered by the same city agency. For that reason, we support Intro 248, and we applaud Chair Hudson for championing this issue. And second, the city should make transit free for the lowest income New Yorkers. Fair Fares has already proven its value. The next step is to ensure that it reaches everyone who needs it, and the cost of getting around the city is no longer a barrier to stability and opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair, for holding this vital hearing today. My name is Beth Williams, and I'm the New York State Policy Director at Hunger Free America, a national direct service and advocacy nonprofit group headquartered in Manhattan with a field office in the Bronx. I'm honored today to speak on behalf of the 1.2 to 1.4 million city residents who now struggle against hunger, living in food insecure homes. Our message is simple. New Yorkers face massive hunger and affordability crises citywide, made worse by the recent passage of H.R. 1, which aims to systematically remove federal nutrition program participants. We need a massive response from the city that addresses all areas of cost of living for low-income New Yorkers. Every dollar that struggling New Yorkers can save on transportation is one more dollar they can spend on food. We've heard from multiple New Yorkers today how they often are choosing between transit and food costs. First of all, we support fully expanding Fair Fares and providing free fares for households that are under at least 150% of the poverty level. We also support Intro 248, which would require the Commissioner of Social Services to create a system to automatically enroll individuals in city-created benefit programs. Economists often apply the term opportunity cost to high and middle income people, meaning that the time they spend on one task is time not available to perform other potentially more valuable tasks. Most social scientists and program administrators rarely apply the concept of opportunity cost to low-income people, acting as if their time is essentially worthless. The reality is, applying for benefits in New York City, as we've heard today, is usually a time-consuming, humiliating, and costly process. We also support Intro 825, which would require HRA to issue duplicate transfer benefit cards under the Fair Fares program. We also support Resolution 52, requiring anyone who's eligible for fair fares or whose income is 200% of the federal poverty level to receive 50% discount on trips. Lastly, we support Resolution 143, which would require unlimited transfers within the 2-hour period. We hear from many folks we work with at our office in the Bronx the stress of transferring and not having transfers between the subway and the bus. And just once again, anything we can do, including these measures, to greatly help cut unnecessary costs for low-income New Yorkers is important. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Alia Sumro, and I'm the Deputy Director for New York City Policy at the New York League of Conservation Voters, a statewide environmental organization. Thank you, Speaker Menon, Chairs Abreu and Hudson, and committee members for holding this hearing today and continuing to prioritize expanding fair fares. NYLCV stands with advocates calling for increasing eligibility to 300% of the federal poverty level. We appreciate that Speaker Menon and the Council's preliminary budget response called for an expansion of the program to make subways and buses fully free for households under at least 150% of the FPL so that the lowest income New Yorkers can count on accessing public transportation without economic strain. Additionally, we need more investment for outreach and education in multiple languages to make sure residents who qualify are using this program. Equity and economic justice is key, but I do want to highlight that expanding fair fares is also a climate solution. Dismantling barriers to public transportation by making it more affordable encourages the shift towards a more sustainable future. When public transit is accessible to all New Yorkers who are most likely to choose the bus and subways over fossil fuel-based vehicles, that helps lower emissions and improves air quality. Equitable transit is vital as we fight for environmental justice in New York City. Lower income communities are disproportionately reliant on public transit, and they deserve the ability to ride without breaking the bank, as we've heard today. Fair fares is an opportunity for city leadership to ensure that the city is fully committed to investing in low-income residents and public transit. NYLCV also supports Intro 248, automatically enrolling individuals into programs like fair fares ensures that policies are, making sure that people are enrolled. So I just want to wrap up and say that we look forward to working with the City Council, the admin and advocates here today to ensure that fair fares is being expanded and people are utilizing it. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We appreciate your testimony and your expertise. The next panel will include Norm Miller, Angel Rosas, Bishop Mitchell Taylor, Christopher Greif, Deborah Greif, and Judy Wang. And Kalia Hazlett. Hi there. You can start on your right and move through.
Well, good afternoon, Chair Hudson and council members. My name is Kalia Hazlett. I'm not here today just as an executive director and member of the Transit Riders Council or an advocate. I'm here as a single mom. I feel like I need to bring some practicality to this conversation. As I have assisted applicants applying for fair fares through the HRA website, what I've come to realize is people are not relying their daily transportation trips on a candidate's promise of free buses. They are thinking, I hope the eggs are on sale so I have enough money to feed my children, and to pay to get to work. All this political red tape that limits eligible access is punitive. We need to change the culture of thinking that people who need assistance are entitled or lazy. As they take the risk to fair evade just to get to work, they are not criminals. We live in the greatest city in the world, but it's expensive. Oh, only $3 for the fare? That $3 is a co-payment for an elderly person's life-sustaining medication. Or how about the $3 for their meal at the senior center? One Omni fare can be a child not getting a candle on their cupcake in their school. Why are we punishing people? PCAC has been providing elected officials with report after report for the need to deepen affordability and creating a direct route to eligibility through the Access HRA website and other avenues. As I listened to the answers from HRA, the passing the buck of responsibility to MTA was exhausting. When they have the eligible information to automatically enroll. When we talk about enrollment in the brick and mortar locations, it is still an applicant in front of a computer to apply. Council members that support and champion fair fares, there has been no real reassessment on how to update the app and make it easier for applicants. As an advocate and a mentor, I look forward to working together to sustain the program and expanding it in the near future. That doesn't just include subways and buses, but also more readily data for Access-a-Ride users. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bishop Taylor?
Good afternoon, Chair Sean Abreu, Chair Crystal Hudson, Councilmember Sandy Nurse, and members of the Committee on Transportation, Infrastructure, and General Welfare. My name is Bishop Mitchell Taylor. I'm the co-founder and CEO of East River Development Alliance, better known as Urban Upbound, a nonprofit organization that works to break cycles of poverty by providing underserved and often overlooked New Yorkers with the tools and resources needed to achieve economic self-sufficiency. First, I want to strongly commend Speaker Julie Menin and the New York City Council for proposing in their preliminary budget a major expansion of the Fair Fares program to make buses and subways fully free for households earning up to 150% of the federal poverty level. Under Speaker Menin's leadership, the Council has put us on a path towards achieving this long-fought goal. This proposal recognizes a simple truth: transportation is not a luxury in New York City. It's a necessity tied directly to economic opportunity. At Urban Upbound, we work diligently with public housing residents and other low-income New Yorkers across the city to ensure that they have the tools and resources to achieve economic success. Thanks largely to the City Council's Food Access and Benefits Initiative, our benefit access counselors screen and certify and recertify New Yorkers for fair fares and other critical public benefits such as SNAP. During fiscal year 2025 alone, nearly half of New Yorkers served by our benefits access counselors were enrolled in fair fares. That number is way too low. As a result, we see firsthand how reducing transit costs lowers barriers to employment, job retention, career advancement, and ultimately economic self-sufficiency. Too often, hardworking New Yorkers are forced to choose between paying for transportation and paying for groceries, rent, or even childcare. We have seen clients struggle to get to interviews, job training programs, or even their current jobs because full fares are just too high. So expanding fair fares is an investment in workforce participation. And the rest of my testimony is written and submitted, and I just want to let all the council members know and the committee know that we fully support the expansion of the half-fare prices for New Yorkers earning between 150% and 300% of the federal poverty level. Thank you so much for this time to speak.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Just for the record, my testimony was already emailed and it was sent.
Great.
I sent it at least 4 times. Good afternoon. I'm Christopher D. Greif. As you may see me at other titles, but I'm here as an advocate for people with disabilities. Since 2019, Fair Fares and HRA made promises they were going to upgrade. I have not seen them upgrade. I have not seen them show respect. What I heard today was lies. I didn't like the way they lied, and they're all saying, oh, go to reduced fare. they're forgetting that seniors and people with disabilities who have the low income, who cannot get a chance to go to work, or if they are, they're having a hard time getting a fair fares. And remember, they use Access-a-Ride. It's not fair for a senior or a person who is a disability with a senior has the right to go on to fair fares. But HRA always forgets this is the 21st century, not the 18th century. They need to show the respect of every person. Seniors who may be still living in NYCHA right now, they can't get on the subway or bus, but they want to get on Access-a-Ride. They pay $3. It's not the MTA's fault. If the MTA can do something, yeah, they can do it, but the MTA is not here. It's HRA. Is the city going to take it seriously for seniors and people with disabilities? The disabilities have the fair fares, but once you become age 65, it's not fair to them. So I am asking the city council and all elected officials to please tell fair fares, keep the fair fares for seniors, because they also have the issue too. And I fully support PCAC and TRC and my colleague, Kalia Hazelwood, on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name's Deborah Greif. I'm not going to tell you every title I have because I'll take up 2 minutes. I'm here today for myself as a person with disabilities. I became disabled way before I turned 65, and I did qualify for the MTA's reduced fare for persons with disabilities. The day I turned 65, yes, my reduced fare stayed as reduced fare, except 4 months before I turned 65, I was said, oh, you can go try for Access-a-Ride to get reduced fare. I said that wasn't worth it because it's only going to be 3-4 months. Because the day I turned 65, my birthday present from HRA was I had to pay $3 on Access-a-Ride. And I blame the former mayor, Bill de Blasio, who didn't realize people are under the misconception that when we're 65 and we're using Access-a-Ride for our disabilities, that we pay reduced fare. I've been told by people all over why are you with your walker on the bus? Why aren't you on Access-a-Ride? Okay, hand me $3 and I'll go. It is ridiculous. HRA also lied to everybody today. First of all, they do not, I've had HRA services. Not once did they say, do you need to use fair fares? Not once was I contacted. Their app, Access HRA, is a joke. I don't know how many times I've been kicked out or claiming I didn't submit my paperwork. I'll tell you how I submit, my SNAP and my Medicaid. I go in person. I will not ever trust that app. The way it is now, it doesn't work. So please fix for us people with disabilities who are seniors. The day we turn 65, we still can pay $1.50 on Access-a-Ride. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Judy Wong, and I'm a daily rider of the Q46 and Q64 buses and the E and F trains. I'm here today, like many others before me, to share my story. I am a first-year PhD student in molecular and cellular biology. Every day I take the bus and subway to conduct complex biological research, engineering bacterial strains, and studying how viruses interact with their host at the molecular level. Work that contributes to our understanding of human disease and that takes years of training to do. And yet, I am financially constrained in a way most people would find surprising. PhD students in my program are paid a stipend of around $36,000 a year. We are expected to live off this in a city where a one-bedroom apartment can cost upwards of $4,000 a month. I work part-time jobs on top of my research, including serving as a home health aide for my elderly parents. And still, it is not enough. Under the current Fair Fares program, a single-person household can earn no more than around $24,000 to qualify. By that measure, I make too much. But $36,000 in New York City is not enough. The proposed expansion we're calling for would raise that threshold to about $48,000, and for the first time, I will qualify for a half-fare card. That would change how I move through the city. Right now, I think twice about every swipe. I track how many trips I've taken, whether I can afford to take the bus to work, or perhaps I should just walk instead. Whether it's worth it to make an extra trip. With the half-fare card, I wouldn't have to do that math anymore. I could just ride. We are not asking for charity. We are asking for a city that recognizes the value of the people who live and work and study here, who do essential, skilled, complex work and makes it possible for them to actually stay. I am a proud member of Rise Alliance, and I urge the City Council to expand fair fares. Let the people who keep this city running afford to actually live here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Angel Rosas. I'm a current student at Bronx Community College and part of the NYPIRG program, New York Independent Research Group. And we advocate for our students to receive, every CUNY student should receive a free Omni card to go to school, because we shouldn't have to decide, are we gonna go to school or are we gonna eat today? And that is my basic thing, because I've seen personally a lot of people go hungry because they can't get to school. So many people that are so smart and can't get to school because they can't afford it. And I don't feel like that's fair. We are the future of this generation. So I want to know what MTA's plan is for CUNY students.
We'll be sure to ask them that question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you all for your testimony. I'm just confirming there's no Norm Miller here. I called Norm Miller before. Okay, thank you. The next panel is Rodney DeDeuce, Susie Camara, Hildelyn Colon, Juan Cerati, Nicholas Pearson, and Allison King. Okay, thank you. And Javier Chavez. We can start to your right with you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ronnie DeDeus. I am a student at Queens College, and I live in...
Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Brian, did you say?
Rodney.
Oh, Rodney.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I'm here today to expand for the expansion of fair fares. I, like many New Yorkers, work for minimum wage, which means from one week to another, depending on how many hours I have, I can lose my fair fares. It's happened to me before, and it happened to me last year. Yeah, some weeks I work more hours, and this creates instability in my life more than financial stability. A few months ago, my bank account was empty in the middle of the week. I still had to get to work. I had no money. Only choice I had was to sneak into the back of the bus or jump the turnstile. And I don't feel good doing that because I'm on the edge of my seat, hoping I don't get caught by the Eagle team. And I just don't think that's fair. Like, how many other people in my situation, like, could have gone, I could have gotten arrested or fined just because I was broke that week. Now the poverty should be criminalized. I remember during the pandemic when buses were free, and it just like, I didn't have to ration trips. It was like freedom. I remember it was like an extension of walking. I just move around the city without having to calculate my trips. I can just go anywhere I want. So even when fares are reduced, there is some psychological barrier that does remind me that every trip is costing me. And so I think it absolutely should be expanded, because I think $24,000 is within the range of minimum wage. The threshold shouldn't be there, it should be much higher. And at least for the poorest New Yorkers, it should be free. So thank you very much. And
Thank you so much.
I am but one voice in a chorus of millions named Nicholas Pearson, a man caught in the teeth of a system that demands my labor but denies my passage. New Yorkers ride this system and work through this system. I depend on this system with my very breath, and yet I am weary. Yet I am bone tired because I have done everything in the world asked of me. I have labored and I have contributed and I have shown up, and still the math does not balance. And when the math fails, the people do not simply evaporate into the other. No, they adjust, they adapt, and they endure. They do what the holy law of survival demands. So if you are going to brand jumping the turnstile as a crime, then you better look at the streets and realize you are calling a whole city of God's children criminals. I journey from Fordham to Staten Island, a pilgrimage of subways and ferries and buses that take $6 out of my pocket before I can even say good morning at work, and $6 more to get back to my bed. $12 a day just to be a man of responsibility. And you might think $12 is a small thing, but $12 is a mountain when it sits on top of rent and groceries and the heat and the kinfolk who need you. It stacks and weighs until your back begins to break. I work and I strive, yet they tell me I'm too rich for fair fares, but too poor to live with dignity, stuck in that hollow valley between a helping hand and a hard place where so many New Yorkers are currently gasping for air. We are talking about a movement as survival, and when you put a price on movement, you are manufacturing conflict. And we know exactly where that hammer falls. It falls on the Black and the Hispanic. It falls on the Bronx, and it falls on Brooklyn, the same shoulders that have always carried the heaviest load. I remember when a MetroCard felt like a key to the kingdom, but now the kingdom is gated and the toll is tears. This is the hour of decision, not tomorrow, but right now. Expand the mercy of these fares and make it automatic so a man does not have to beg for what should be his right.
Beautifully written. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan Cerati, and I hail from Bushwick. I'm a regular rider of the L train and B60 buses. And I'm here, as with others, to advocate for the expansion of fair fares. I really don't believe anyone in the city should be criminalized or stranded because they can't afford a fare. I have a Fair Fares card currently, and as someone that is living proof of the goodness of this program, I want other people to enjoy that benefit. I have a relative who I always think about who goes to school, and they were part of Fair Fares, but because they increased his salary a little bit, he can no longer afford a Fair Fares card. He no longer qualifies, and that's unjust. And in hearing that the City Council is excited about this expansion, I hope a lot of consideration is given to doing something that brings justice to our communities and does what's fair. A lot of working people help the city run, and the money that we save is money that we use to survive. It's money that we are able to put back into the economy. And I love that someone mentioned the opportunity cost of working class people, because there is a positive trade-off when we're not paying so much into a fare. And I know this does very little, but we need partners within our city council, within our neighborhoods to advocate for this. And I stand here with all of the members in Riders Alliance and every advocate who sees the benefit in expanding fair fares. And I'm calling all riders to unite in this moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Javier Chavez. I'm a community advocate at Mixteca. It's a nonprofit located in Sunset Park. We have provided services to the Latinx and indigenous community for over 25 years. And I'm here today to share the story of a member of our community. She has authorized me to share her testimony. Hello, my name is Araceli Marmolejo Salinas. I live in Queens. I take the train several times a day. I am here to advocate for more accessible train service and for the expansion of fare fares. No person should be criminalized for not having enough money to pay for transportation. I hold a reduced fare OmniCard. This is proof that affordable transportation works. However, even with this card, many of my neighbors remain excluded. We need to expand this program so that more people can experience the financial relief that I currently enjoy. I am a volunteer domestic worker for several organizations here in New York, and I have worked alongside more than 100, perhaps 150 fellow volunteers. The majority of them do not have the great blessing that I currently have in possessing this reduced fare card. Yet, given the soaring cost of basic necessities such as groceries, rent, and utilities, paying for transportation places a tremendous financial burden on us. We are sometimes forced to choose between purchasing a necessity, such as a medication, and attending an organizing event. We have even missed medical appointments because at that moment we simply did not have the funds to pay for transportation. I appeal to your noble hearts, council members, you who are here to support our New York community. This initiative will have a profound impact on us, the workers who build the economy of this beautiful city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your testimony. And I just want to call Susie Kamara and Hildelyn Colon. Just make sure they're not here. Okay. Okay, thank you. The next panel is Judith Prado, Dana Dennis, Rebecca Ahn, Carolina Moreno, Ashley Chen, and Talia Crawford. We can begin on my left, your right, and go down the line. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Judith Prado. I am here on behalf of La Colmena. I am the Programs Director. La Colmena is a nonprofit community-based organization that works with day laborers, domestic workers, and other low-wage immigrants. Our mission is to empower workers through education, organizing, culture, and economic development. For Staten Island, transportation is not optional. Our borough relies heavily on buses, and access to affordable transit is essential for workers to get their jobs, support their families, and participate in daily life. Expanding the eligibility to 300% of federal poverty level would better reflect the economic reality of New York City. It would ensure that working class and immigrant communities are not excluded from the programs designed to support economic stability. Many essential workers in Staten Island, home care workers, construction workers, delivery workers, and others earn about 200% of the federal poverty level, yet still struggle to afford the basic necessities like rent, food, childcare, and transportation. These are the very workers who keep our city running, but they are often left out of critical support. At La Colmena, we see every day how high transportation costs create real barriers. When transit is unaffordable, it impacts their ability to work, arrive on time, and maintain stable employment. Affordable and reliable transportation is not just about mobility. It is about economic stability and dignity. We urge the New York City Council and state legislature to expand eligibility for these programs to 300% of the federal poverty level, so they truly meet the needs of the New Yorkers. Thank you all for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Hudson, for saying. I know we had Chair Braille here also and the speaker, and I saw some other council members as well. And I'm thankful that you all were able to host this hearing today. I also want to say shout out to the speaker. It's been great to have her support on this, but thank you once again for last time we had this hearing, asking the members of the various agencies to stay, and once again, I feel like they have abandoned us. If we look around, those who are most impacted are still here, and I'm looking for, HRA and MTA, and I'm glad they were here and I'm glad for all the questions, but we really do need them to be in the room to hear these stories. It shouldn't just be on you all who are already like fighting to get the best out of this program. With that said, my name is Deanna Dennis. I'm a senior organizer with Writers Alliance, and I want to start with something really personal. And I heard a few other people speak to this dynamic. There was a time in my life when I was offered a promotion at my job, and instead of feeling really excited about it or happy, I felt extremely afraid. I went home and I really looked through the numbers, and because I knew that small increase would push me over the eligibility level for a lot of the support that I was already receiving, and I'm in my 40s, so I've been on SNAP, I've been on cash assistance, I've been on everything that has been out here most of my life. And it was really terrifying for me to be over that level and no longer qualify for a lot of the help that I had been receiving at that time. And it really just does need to be a stronger transition to get folks out of these programs. It's not that folks don't want to aspire to more, but that transition sometimes feels like a cliff that just drops you. And I remember the difference from when I didn't make enough to get SNAP anymore, and then it was like, you're on your own. But I had to ask myself, right, is moving forward actually going to set me back? And the reality is that that happens for thousands of New Yorkers. Oh, and I'm at time. I'll just say quickly, you all have already heard the numbers. Fair Fares is capped, as we know, at 150% in the federal poverty line, and that means individuals who are right around just over $23,000 a year. And the truth is people are making more and they're struggling every single day. And I just wanted to uplift again the need for the 300% and for those folks. And we know those are home health aide workers, store clerks, Amazon stock workers, as we've heard, restaurant workers, and various other New Yorkers. And there's just such a need. And I'm thankful for today because it's been years coming of slow increments of this program being increased. And finally, it feels like things are aligning where the program can be its robust full self. And hopefully we can get it pushed out where people who need it hear about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Carolina Moreno, and I am a community advocate at Mixteca. I am here today to share a community member's testimony. Hello, my name is Lisette Rincon, and I live in Brooklyn. I take the subway and the bus every day, and I am here every day to advocate for more accessible transportation services and for expansion of fares. No one should be criminalized or left behind or unable to get around simply because they do not have enough money to pay the fare. I hold a Fare Omni card, and it has been truly an enormous help to me. I am a mother, I am a housewife, and I am constantly on the move to fulfill my personal and professional responsibilities. Currently, I do not earn any income of my own, so this card is the only way I can get around in the city on a daily bus. I save approximately $60 a month, and that money has made a huge difference in our household. We use it to buy groceries, to pay utilities and other bills, or cover basic needs of the household or baby necessities. The City Council must understand that transportation costs are just one part of a much larger economic crisis. Many of our families are struggling every day against high rent costs, rising food prices, and high cost of basic utilities and childcare. That's why we need the city to continue protecting programs like Fair Fares. Transportation, housing, and food must be accessible rights for all of us, not a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Hudson, Chair Abreu, and members of the City Council for holding this hearing today and continuing to prioritize expanding the Fair Fares program that would improve equitable access to affordable transit for hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers. My name is Ashley Chen. I'm the Policy and Research Manager at the Chinese American Planning Council, CPC. CPC is the largest Asian American social service organization in the country, providing vital resources to more than 80,000 people each year through more than 50 programs, from after-school programs and childcare to senior services and workforce development at over 30 sites across Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. In one of the wealthiest cities in the world, a $3 fare is not a small expense. It's a barrier. As the cost of living continues to climb, even the basic act of getting around the city has become a daily financial calculation for too many New Yorkers. For low-income and working-class residents, including the communities we serve, access to work, school, or medical care often comes down to impossible trade-offs. I know this firsthand. During my undergraduate studies here in New York City, there were days when my peers and I had to calculate dollar by dollar what we could afford, whether we could take the subway, or whether that meant sacrificing something essential like food or textbooks. These are not isolated moments. They are constant, compounding pressures that create stress, restrict mobility, and limit opportunity. No one should have to ration their movement in a city that depends on their labor, their presence, and their civic participation. Fair Fares is one of the most effective tools that we have to address this inequity. In fact, about 130 of our community members are currently enrolled in the program. It has opened pathways to employment, education, and stability. Yet today, it reaches only a fraction of those who need it most, largely because eligibility is too limited. To truly meet the scale of need, the city must expand Fair Fares eligibility to households earning up to 300% of the federal poverty line. In a city as expensive as ours, families well above the current threshold still struggle to afford basic transportation. Expanding eligibility would recognize the realities of the modern cost of living and ensure that more working New Yorkers are not left behind. At a time when affordability is a defining challenge and the criminalization of low income and communities of color is more prevalent than ever, we need to fully fund and expand Fair Fares, including raising eligibility 300% of the federal poverty level. We urge the City Council to fully invest in this program, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Talia Crawford. I'm the Advocacy and Organizing Manager at Tri-State Transportation Campaign. Thank you for holding this joint hearing and for the opportunity to comment and support the expansion of New York City Fair Fares program. Affordability is top of mind for everyone right now, and the rising cost of nearly everything is putting pressure on households. It's more important now than ever to take meaningful steps to keep New York City affordable for all. We urge the City Council to expand the program even further by introducing half-price fares to residents earning up to 300% below the federal poverty line. This new threshold is a direct investment in human dignity and a lifeline for New Yorkers who earn too much to qualify for aid, but too little to keep up with the rising cost of the survival in the city. It would extend relief, put money back into pockets in order to afford the essentials, and regain some financial security. Additionally, we need automatic enrollment to reduce barriers and get more New Yorkers the benefits they deserve. We need to ensure that these accessible and affordable programs are easier and not harder to access. We appreciate Chair Hudson's leadership in advancing this important issue through her legislation. All of this can complement Mayor Mamdani's push for free bus service by expanding access to the subway system. In 2025, 65% of Fair Fares swipes were on the subway, double the rate of buses. Fair Fares expands network access throughout the entire system. Thank you again, and looking forward to the continued work ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your testimony. I just want to make sure that Rebecca Ahn is not here. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next panel will be Adrian Cacho and Christopher Leon Johnson.
Hello. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. Thank you, Chair Husband, doing this hearing. I'm calling on the City Council to call for the MTA to remove the household requirement provision within the MTA Fair Fares program. I want to know why these so-called nonprofits such as Riders Alliance had not said not one thing about telling the MTA to remove the household requirements that really hinders a lot of families. That household requirement really make it where that the families that really need those Fair Fares came and get the Fair Fares, because if you make a certain amount of money and you have four people in your house, you can't even get you're not eligible for the program. And I'm gonna say this right now, that a lot of people said that we need to expand the Fair Fares, but the thing is that the mayor's office they say they don't have the money, but they have the money, they don't want to, because we have a mayor that's scared of the governor and we have a mayor that's scared of Janet Lieber. But I'm gonna say this right now. I said it's the Bessie Plum outside, and I'm gonna say this right now on the record that the New York City Council need to call the mayor's office to remove the NYPD from helping out the Eagle team when it comes to fare evasion in some of the most impoverished districts in New York City, such as the South Bronx, the BX12, and such as the B46, which is in Crown Heights, Bedford-Stuyvesant, and the BA2 bus, which covers Canarsie and Coney Island. But the Riders Line is not going to say anything about that. I told them, I said, you know why? Because they're so captive to General Lieber, they're so scared of losing that access to General Lieber. That's all they care about. And I'm going to say this right now that going forward, like I said, we need to make the buses fast and free. The mayor had the power to do it. He just don't want to do it. He's just scared of doing it. He's scared of MTA TWU, and he's scared of the MTA bosses, General Lieber. I'm not scared. I'm not scared of them. I'll get in their face, tell them in their face what they need to, I'll tell them about themselves. But like I said, going forward, like I said, the city council, what they need to do is introduce the bill to borrow the NYPD from helping out the MTA Eagle team for enforcing fair vision. I think that needs to go forward with the city council if they really care about the poor in those districts, because that's a big hinder with the people over there. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Adrian Cacho, senior organizer at Open Plans, where we promote a people-first street culture that prioritizes community, active mobility, and connection. Thank you to Speaker Menon, Chair Hudson, Chair Abreu, and all of the committee members for holding this hearing today and for continuing to prioritize expanding this program to improve equitable access to affordable transit for hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers. So I was at the rally earlier, and we heard stories from folks about their experiences with the Fair Fares program and how important it is to them. And we've heard stories just now from these same folks. And it should be clear by now how instrumental this program is, not just in making transit affordable, but also in expanding access to job opportunities and education across the city. If done right, the Fair Fares program can also deliver faster commutes to millions of subway, bus, paratransit, and commuter railroad riders in New York City right now, transforming how people get around. A lot of what we hear from our communities is not just about the lack of investment in our public spaces, but also about how hard it can be to get to them. And the standard fare can add up quickly, especially for low-income families, older adults, and essential workers who are already facing high costs of living. The overlap between affordable transit and safer streets shows up in countless ways across the city. Most New Yorkers rely on public transit to get around, and we must maintain this accessibility, which in turn keeps our streets less congested and easier to navigate. This is why we must expand the Fair Fares program, expand the eligibility up to 300% of the federal poverty level, and reduce administrative burdens so that more New Yorkers can utilize this program. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We will now move to virtual testimony. Please wait for your name to be called to testify, and please select unmute when prompted. Charlton D'Souza.
You may begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we support all the proposals for fair fares, but I want to bring some issues. So a lot of minimum wage earners, they make like close to $40,000 a year, and that threshold should be $40,000 to qualify for fair fares, up to that amount. Because right now, a lot of people are struggling in New York City, they can't afford mass transit, and the MTA lied to you guys. So a lot of the MTA kiosks in the customer service centers are iPads that can actually be tampered with. They're in front of the public, and most of them are broken at stations. So a lot of times the station agents cannot help people qualify for fair fares. I also want to point out that I could not find information on when an enrollment term starts and ends, what the year is, on the Fair Fares website. And also, like, they need to get rid of the household income criteria for fair fares. That is ridiculous. And, you know, the station agents are not properly trained on fair fares at customer service centers. But I will say this, why is it that the MTA cannot allow fair fares to come inside the cab summonses office in Brooklyn, where people have to, you know, when they get arrested or when they get a citation for fare evasion, they should be a fair fares office in there so people can just apply for fair fares there as well. Because then you would get a lot of the people who are struggling with poverty. And that is a big issue. And then the other issue that I want to raise is I want to thank David Jones from Community Service Society. He's an MTA board member, and he was the one who really got fair fares going. And we at Passengers United, we're a nonprofit. Fair Fares has never reached out to us.
Thank you. Your time expired.
Nothing. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Iman Ramani Doster.
You may begin.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Iman Ramawi Doster, and I'm a senior community organizer for the Disability Justice Program for New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. And thank you so much for allowing me to present my testimony today. Public transportation is a lifeline for New Yorkers with disabilities. Many disabled New Yorkers are on fixed incomes, making this lifeline difficult to afford, which is why fair fares is vitally important. People may think $3 isn't a lot of money, but if they only receive $900 a month in benefits and have a ton of other expenses and no support, $3 can be a lot. I remember being on a fixed income and how not only that there were times that I had to scrape together pennies to use Access-a-Ride, back when it was $2.25, but I'd also have to skip vital appointments and meetings because I did not always have those pennies to scrape together. When the city initially introduced fair fares, it was not available to Access-a-Ride users. New York Lawyers for the Public Interest advocated for and secured the extension of the discount program for Access-a-Ride, but the benefits that fair fares provides to Access-a-Ride is still too limited, as it only covers low-income individuals under 65, as has been mentioned earlier. Accordingly, we call on the city to remove the age cap from fair fares program so that Access-a-Ride users over the age of 65 can qualify. Further, not only should this hearing have captions available on the Zoom option, but also, according to what I heard at a couple of other town halls that included disabled New Yorkers, they still don't even know about fair fares. I also appreciate the council members bringing up how nasty some of the HRA staff have been, but the HRA folks didn't respond to that. And so I'm hoping that that can also be worked on, because I think that some people don't want to be disrespected and dehumanized in some of these offices, like I was. Additionally, fair fares cannot be used on the city's express buses, which cost
Thank you. Your time
$7.
expired.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Eric McClure.
You may begin.
Thank you, Chair Hudson. I appreciate you and Chair Breu holding this hearing today. My name is Eric McClure. I am the Executive Director of Streets PAC. We join transit riders and our many colleagues in advocacy, including Riders Alliance and the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee today, in calling for the expansion of the Fair Fares program to 300% of the federal poverty level, fully free transit for families earning less than 150% of the FPL, the inclusion in the program of express buses and the commuter railroads, automatic enrollment of qualified participants, and the closing of loopholes for seniors and disabled riders. While we're very supportive of Mayor Mamdani's efforts to make the city buses fast and free, it's clear that it will take time to fully realize the elimination of bus fares. And the fact is that about 2/3 of fair fares use is on the subways. While a $3 transit fare may seem trivial to some, the cost to commute regularly to work or to make other necessary trips adds up quickly. The Community Service Society reports that 1 in 5 New Yorkers struggle to pay transit fares. Working class New Yorkers are too often forced to choose between paying for a bus or subway ride or paying for a meal or another vital expense, and the expansion of the Fair Fares program, as outlined, will save more than 2 million New Yorkers nearly $1,000 a year. We strongly support Committee on General Welfare Chair Hudson's Intro 248, which would require creation of a system to automatically enroll eligible people in city-operated benefits like Fair Fares. Automatic enrollment would increase participation in the Fair Fares program significantly, eliminating the need to complete a laborious enrollment process that creates an unnecessary barrier to usage. We're also highly supportive of expanding Fair Fares coverage to the MTA's express buses and commuter railroads, which would be especially helpful to people who live in parts of the city that aren't well served or served at all by the subway system. Similarly, we support the closing of program loopholes like the age cutoff for Access-a-Ride, which forces qualified participants to start paying the full fare when they turn 65. We're well aware of the fiscal headwinds the city faces today, but a relatively modest investment in a robustly expanded Fair Fares program will vastly improve the lives of the most impoverished New Yorkers, and unlocking their economic potential by lowering or eliminating barriers to mobility will benefit everyone in New York City.
Thank you. Your time expired.
Thank you so much. I clocked your speed reading there, Eric. Thank you. Ramona Ferreira.
You may begin.
Good afternoon. Fair Fares is a lifeline and equalizer for New Yorkers. Like myself, this program makes it possible for me to engage the city fully. Without it, I would not have access to medical, social, and cultural activities. It would also limit my civic participation. I am a tenant organizer within public housing and attend NYCHA developments for meetings. where they are facing privatization. This is something that is allowed under public housing rights and encouraged. Each meeting, I meet tenants that have heard about the harms caused by privatization of public housing only through other tenants. NYCHA hides from tenants the statistics on eviction and displacement, increases in rent, and doesn't tell them how their federally protected rights and benefits under the PAC program would actually harm them. So instead, we are promised new appliances and flooring, but for those of us trying to save public housing, we know better. And we show up while not getting paid to do so. So this mayor actually wants to not only stop the expansion of fair fares, but also wants to privatize public housing further by allocating $662 million towards PAC. He's also supporting the demolition of 18 buildings in Chelsea. And tenants will have to continue to fight against him and his budget, and will continue to depend on public transportation to do so, all while not getting paid to do this work. So I urge the council to shift all funding away from privatization of public housing and towards Section 9 comprehensive modernization. And we urge you to automatically enroll folks in fair fares and expand the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's testified. If there's anyone present in the room or on Zoom that has not had the opportunity to testify, please raise your hand. Are you Norm Miller? Okay, great. We can call you up to the dais. Apologies, I called you twice before, but I don't think you were in the room. Okay, no problem.
You're on. All right. All right. Good afternoon, Transportation Committee. My name is Norm Miller. I am a student at CUNY's New York City College of Technology, which is City Tech, which is right on the opposite side of the Brooklyn Bridge, located in downtown Brooklyn. I am also part of the New York Public Interest Research Group, also known as NYPERG. I'm also on the Student Board of Directors. I just want to say that I am a full-time undergraduate, and being a full-time undergrad comes with a lot of financial burden, as I have to struggle between paying for transportation, $24 a week, and paying for tuition every semester. Having a program such as Fair Fares can help alleviate that burden. It can give opportunities for jobs and education and a better quality of life. People between 16 and 64 years of age qualify for Fair Fares, but only under 375,000 people are enrolled. Transit costs should never be a blockade for either education or opportunities. I'm calling on the expansion of Fair Fares so that more low-income and more working-class New Yorkers can get 50% discounts on buses, subways, paratransits, and the MTA's two commuter railroad systems, the Long Island Railroad and Metro North. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there anyone else on Zoom that would like to testify? If so, please use the raise hand function. Seeing no one else, I'd like to note that written testimony, which will be reviewed in full by committee staff, may be submitted to the record up to 72 hours after the close of this hearing by emailing it to testimony@council.nyc.gov. I want to thank everyone again for their testimony today. I'd like to thank Chair Abreu and Speaker Menon for partnering with me on this hearing. I think it's incredibly important that we heard the testimony that we heard from folks today, specifically those who've been criminalized for poverty, where Fair Fares card or being in the Fair Fares program would have prevented something like that from happening. And so I'd also like to thank the administration for coming out. And with that, I will adjourn today's hearing. Thank you.